You may take the meeting, Chair Payne. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucky. So I would like to call to order the September 22nd, 2021 special meeting of the Environmental Quality Commission. This is a teleconference meeting with Environmental Quality Commission or EQC members, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. So we'll begin the meeting with roll call. So I would first like to introduce the staff and EQC members present. Commissioner Elkins, Commissioner Vice Chair Evans, rather, Commissioner Gaillard, Commissioner Cabot, and then myself, Chair Payne, and then Commissioners London and Price are absent this evening. Staff present include Rebecca Lucky, our Sustainability Manager, and our Sustainability Contractor, Candace Almendral. Ms. Almendral, would you please provide instructions to the advisory body and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair Payne and members of the Environmental Quality Commission. Welcome everyone to the September 22nd special meeting of the EQC, and thank you for attending. At this time, we ask that all members of the EQC please remain on screen for the duration of the meeting. You will control your own webcams and microphones. Staff will engage webcams and microphones to make presentations and respond to members of the EQC. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raised hand feature. I will then have the ability to open your microphone and you can provide public comment to the EQC. For those members of the public who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, please dial *9 to raise your virtual hand. That concludes instructions, and I return the meeting to Chair Payne.
Thank you, Ms. Almendral. So now we can proceed on to regular business. Just a note before we begin, because this is a special meeting, there's no public comment before the meeting. So after roll call, we're proceeding to regular business, but there will still be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comment on each of the agenda items tonight. So with that, we'll just get right into our first agenda item, item C1, which is to approve the August 18th, 2021 minutes. So first, are there any clarifying questions from the EQC commissioners before we take public comment? I'm seeing a lot of heads shaking no and not hearing any comments. So Ms. Almendral, do we have any public comment on this item?
Just as a reminder for members of the public who are in and want to provide public comment, please engage your raised hand feature or dial *9 on your landline or cell phone. I do not see any hands raised at this time. Oh, here we are. We have one public comment from Mr. Peter Edmonds. Here we are. Okay, Mr. Peter Edmonds, you've been unmuted. Can you please test your microphone?
Yes, I'm unmuted from my perspective as well. Can you hear me?
We can hear you wonderfully. Your 3 minutes to provide public comment start now. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Payne and commissioners. I think it is time to speak a modicum of truth to power and to cut through some of the customary flattery that accompanies each proceedings. I trust you will join me. Briefly, we would not be wasting our time on this issue of the minutes if your staff writing minutes perform the task competently and properly reviewed drafts before release. The minutes of your July 21 meeting contain the one-line statement that at the last meeting, I identified a mistake in the minutes of your May 19 minutes. And secondly, provided an action item to include correction of the irrelevant word coloration, but without saying what the correction was and providing the context. Thus, anyone reading these minutes would refer to the May 19 minutes and find that the word coloration is to be corrected, but they would not know what the correction is. And so they would have to refer to the recording, which the minute writer could perfectly well have done to get it right, and provide the reader with a correct rendering of what I said. And what I said was that the honor of having a tree dedicated to a member of the City Council on Arbor Day 2021 belonged to former Mayor Ray Miller and not to the sitting Mayor Drew Coombs. He had nothing to do with the negotiations which Mayor Ray Miller very expertly conducted on the spur of the moment with the owner of the property at 1000 ECR, which was going to destroy the redwood trees, and which resulted in the contract with Canopy for 76 trees, which the city is now enjoying. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Edmonds. Are there any further comment on item C1? Last call for comments. There are no further comments for item C1 at this time.
All right, then at that point, I can open this item C1, the approval of the August 18th, 2021 minutes, open for EQC discussion.
Can I just go ahead and make a motion?
Yes,
I move that we approve the minutes with the revision to insert, as Mr. Edmonds had just described, the word that coloration should have been was collaboration. So if we could just fix that notation so that it's indicated that the correct word is collaboration.
No.
No. Did somebody just shout no?
I believe Mr. Edmonds did.
Okay.
Um,
No, and he's correct. I am good. Serendipitously, I heard him shout no, and I look more clearly at my notes, and the word was negotiation. I'm sorry. Coloration was not. It was supposed to be negotiation. Is that correct, Mr. Edmonds?
I don't know. Is he still?
Or does
able to
everybody
make
else
comments?
agree that that's correct? It's negotiation.
Yes, I second that.
Okay. And if that's not correct, then Mr. Edmonds can come back at the next meeting and correct it again, but I believe that's correct.
All right, so then we have a motion and a second. And the motion, if I am correct, is to make the adjustment recommended by Mr. Edmonds to change the word coloration then to negotiation.
Just, or to indicate rather that the word coloration should be negotiation. I think both those words need to be mentioned so that it's clear.
Okay.
Okay.
Then Ms. Almondral, could you take a roll call on this stated motion?
So we have the stated motion from Commissioner Elkins. I'm sorry, did we have a second and I missed it?
Yes.
Commissioner Cabot.
I apologize. Okay, great. So we have a stated motion to correct the word coloration to negotiation as stated by Mr. Edmonds. We're going to do a vote. Commissioner Elkins.
And we're approving the minutes otherwise.
Oh, and approving the minutes with this, I apologize. Approve the minutes with this correction.
Okay, aye.
Vice Chair Evans.
Aye.
Commissioner Gillard.
Aye.
Commissioner Cabot.
Aye.
Chair Payne,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Almondral. Then we can move on to our next agenda item. Item C2, which is to review and discuss Commissioner Elkins's recommendation to City Council on gas-powered leaf blower, on the gas-powered leaf blower ban. So first, are there any clarifying questions from the EQC before taking public comment on this item? Yes, Vice Chair Evans.
Thank you. Sorry, I should have clicked with his hand. My dog is going bananas in the background. Actually, yes, I had one question, which was Commissioner Elkins wanted to know what the typical life of one of the new electric powered machines is, if you know, or a range.
Actually, that's a great question. I don't really know. I was hoping you were going to ask for what the life of a gas-powered leaf blower is, because I know the answer to that one, which is around 10 years. But no, I do not know the answer to your question. Sorry.
Do we have any other additional clarifying questions before we move on to public comment on this item? I'm not seeing.
So Chair Payne, I think it might be good if Commissioner Elkins has a presentation to provide the presentation to help facilitate the public comment.
Before the public comment? All right. In that case, then let's move on to Commissioner Elkins' presentation before we take public comment on this item.
Very well. I'm going to share my screen then. And you let me know if you see it.
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. And I hope I know how to move from page to page. Let me just try that. Okay, there we go. I think. Okay, so page 1. This is just a little overview of the 21-page report that I did that hopefully everybody read. And this is basically the outline of that report. And I've divided it, the question of gas-powered leaf blowers and their harms into basically 2 categories, which are noise and pollution, and then into further categories of within the noise category, what is the health effects of excessive noise, and then within the pollution category, the health effects of pollution. Then I address what we can do instead of using gas-powered leaf blowers, and then there's a discussion of ways to implement a ban. So the first question regards noise, and this is the where complaints first started to roll in. It's really the first thing that people object to about gas-powered leaf blowers. And in my experience, then what happens is they look into it a little bit more and they discover that, in fact, they're quite harmful in many ways, other than just the nuisance of the noise. But noise in particular was the basis for the existing ordinance. It was an attempt to ameliorate the effects of the noise that is created by these machines. And so under the ordinance, that gas leaf blowers can only be used from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, by commercial landscapers. And the machine itself has to be rated to be below 65 decibels at a distance of 50 feet. But where this fails is that Menlo Park is in an urban environment, and there's practically no situation where you're gonna, I mean, obviously you will be many situations where you're outside of 50 feet of a leaf blower, but if your neighbor happens to be employing a gardener using a leaf blower, that will almost necessarily be within 50 feet of you. Seeing as many of the lots, especially where I live in the Willows, are substandard. My lot is only 55 feet across, so anybody who's standing on the lot next door is going to be within 50 feet of me. And within that distance, the decibel level is going to be greater than 65. And so therefore, I don't think that the existing ordinance actually addresses the question or the issue that citizens have complained about. Another aspect of the noise of gas-powered leaf blowers is the fact that these machines emit a low frequency sound, which has a different physical effect than a high frequency sound, which is what the sound of an electric leaf blower emits. Low frequency sound travels at a more effective rate through barriers, walls, and double pane windows, and therefore can affect a huge number of surrounding homes, whereas an equally powerful gas or electric blower will only impact about 6 homes versus 90 for a gas blower. And more importantly, I think even then the irritation of these machines is the actual physical and psychological impacts of noise and excessive noise, that especially when it is constant in your neighborhood, and especially as we've known during the pandemic when a lot of people have been home. The noise impacts your focus, it impacts your ability to perform tasks efficiently. It causes a stress reaction in your body, which can really actually lead to physical disorders such as listed down here. And especially during this pandemic when kids were at home, I know that and the studies show that excessive noise can result in lower test scores. And so this continues to be a factor even when kids are back in school, because of course these things are used in proximity to school grounds. The science around this and the studies, the research, everything that's out there is conclusive that gas-powered leaf blowers cause air pollution. The inefficient combustion of the fuel produces smog, ozone, hydrocarbons. The famous test is the Ford Raptor test, where that showed that the hydrocarbon emissions from using a gas-powered leaf blower for half an hour are the same as if you were driving a Ford F-150 from Texas to Alaska. And as is also equally settled and indicated, I was at the gas station the other day and I just noticed a little Proposition 65 warning on the gas pump. This is exactly the same issue as the emissions that are coming out of our gas leaf blowers. Benzene, acetaldehyde, formaldehyde, all are among the top 4 cancer causing compounds. This is why we have this Prop 65 warning at the gas station. Studies, I'm unable to find any studies that are of specifically gardeners, but studies there do exist showing that exposure to gasoline emissions, fumes in gas station employees have led to health problems such as listed here: early death, heart attack, stroke, etc., and can even lead to developmental and neurological disorders. In addition to the inhalation type harms caused by the inefficiently burnt fuel, the long-term use of machines can cause hand-arm vibration syndrome, which can lead to numbness in the fingers, muscle weakness, and an inability to work eventually. And which is worth noting at this point that all of the risks are the greatest from the operators themselves. They should be wearing ear protection, they should be wearing masks, and even if they are, they're still affected by these harms more than anybody. And so what's the alternative? Commercial leaf blowers are as effective as gas leaf blowers. These cordless lithium ion battery leaf blowers are highly rated to do almost any job that a gardener would need to do with a leaf blower. There's really, the situation is clear that there is a completely acceptable tool for this job that does not have the same harms that the gas leaf blower does. And naturally, before leaf blowers were even invented, there was a thing called a rake. There's a thing called a broom. People will complain that these tools take longer, and there are differences of opinion. There have been studies or tests between the two, and sometimes they show that you can do the job just as fast with a broom. But regardless, if a gardener is asked to use a rake or a broom instead, and the job takes longer, then the gardener should be paid for that time. It's a trade-off. However, electric blowers are, and as I'll see in, well, actually, I don't have my notes here, but yes, some complain that there are 5 to 10% of jobs that cannot be handled by these battery-powered leaf blowers, and in that case, you can use a corded blower. You could use a 4-stroke gas blower that's more efficient, but there's no good reason to use a gas-powered leaf blower 100% of the time when it's really only needed 5 to 10% of the time. I'm actually just making that figure up. I don't know what the figure is, but the instance of needing the extreme power of a gas blower is rare. And so what would it mean if we were going to implement a ban? It's true that these commercial quality electric leaf blowers are expensive, but the savings in fuel costs, which I noticed is almost $5 a gallon these days, and maintenance, because there's hardly any moving parts. There's no need to add oil. There's no need for maintenance. Over the first 2 years, the costs will even out. Moreover, we can help mitigate the upfront costs with incentive programs. Employers, as was mentioned previously, can pay gardeners for additional time that's required if that's what's required. And it's other cities, and it says in the report, there's over 90 cities in California that have banned or otherwise restricted gas leaf blowers. A number of these cities did use a phase-in period so that they didn't just cut off access to the or use of the blowers prior, without any warning. It was usually a 1 to 2 year period of phase-in. During that time period, education was conducted to explain the benefits of electric, the harms of gas to the user as well as the environment, and to set up a system, a buyback or other financial incentive system to alleviate the harms on the small business owner. So that is another outreach method to convince gardeners that these machines can be just as effective, are demonstrations of the equipment by either by city staff who may have learned to use them properly, or some other organization or manufacturers who can demonstrate proper techniques and battery maintenance and conservation techniques, ways to avoid having to go through excessive batteries during the day. Another problem that people are bringing up is the enforcement issue. And this is definitely an issue. However, the more cities that ban the blowers, the more, the easier it will be to get the message across that they are not desired in our neighborhoods. And so education and information about the upcoming end of sale date that CARB is working on will encourage gardeners to switch now and incentivize them to get an electric blower rather than investing in new gas equipment before that ban takes place, which is expected to be January of 2024. So fines is something that could be considered. This is all issues that the city council could discuss, but I wouldn't recommend that fining a gardener would be a great approach, considering fining after multiple warnings. The employer would be another option for keeping equity towards the small business person. And oops, my last slide shows the little breakdown of the costs of operating a gas leaf blower versus an electric blower over time. And it shows, this is from a study from AGSA, American Green Zone Alliance, that shows that after 2 years, there's actually a savings in switching to electric. And so in conclusion, I cannot read this because people's faces are on top of it. Okay. In conclusion, I recommend that the city council adopt a ban, because the existing attempt to have it both ways has not satisfied the electorate. The citizenry has continued to complain, and so something different needs to be done. I don't think that there's any need to have any discussion about whether or how gas leaf blowers are harmful to the environment and to public health. It's settled. The science is clear, as I've put out in my report. Equitable solutions are available and possible. And as is mentioned in my report, state has budgeted $30 million to help small businesses and sole proprietor gardeners with this transition, with the expectation that CARB is going to release zero emissions requirements for these machines as of January 1st, 2024. And so that money has not yet, it's not determined yet exactly how it will be made available, either given to localities or to air boards, regional air quality boards, or whether the state itself will administer it. But the fact is that money has been earmarked and appropriated in the budget bill. So I think this is an opportunity where we can educate landscapers of the benefits of electric to their own health, can discourage them from investing in brand new gas equipment in advance of the zero emissions requirements, and therefore protect our city from the continuation of the use of these machines in our city, because without a ban, they will continue to be operated. The state action is only an end of sale, AB 1346, which is a Mark Berman bill that is still on the governor's desk for signature, as far as I know, but has passed the legislature. And there's really no reason to believe that the governor will not sign it, because it addresses his executive order asking for a bold action to reach zero emissions in the state of California. So there's a danger that people will invest in brand new gas equipment before this ban takes place, or this zero emission new standards takes place on January 24th or January of 2024, because there is no ban at the state level on use. So this is an opportunity now to do that, because otherwise we risk nothing changing, and that is not the what the citizens of Menlo Park have made clear that they want. They will not be satisfied to have 10 more years until new equipment dies out. And so I think I put this last slide as my recommendation. If I can move there we go. So I am urging the commission to adopt my report and forward it to the council with a recommendation that they direct staff to study a ban, not to just go ahead and write a ban, but to direct staff to do that. This is staff at this point. Staff has had no involvement in this study, and that would be the next step. Would be to recommend to the council that it directs staff to prepare a study. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. I would just like to say as a final comment that we are, as we all know, we're in a crisis, and even the smallest step can not only make an actual difference in air quality, but it will demonstrate that we're serious about the climate and protecting the climate and making changes. I think that in one of the latest reports that came out of the International Committee, they stated that we need to get rid of all existing fossil fuel equipment if we want to stay under the 1.5 climate change or temperature change level that is desired. So this would be a step towards that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins. So with that, I think we then can move back to ask and see if there are any clarifying questions from EQC commissioners now that we've seen the report before taking public comment. Very quickly before we do, I meant to say this at the beginning of the meeting, but we're planning to take a break around 7:30 p.m. tonight, whenever we get a convenient window between agenda items, just as a heads up to all participants in this meeting. So with that said, are there any clarifying questions from EQC commissioners at this time? And just bear in mind, I can't see people's videos right now. So if you do have a question, please just go ahead and speak. I'm not seeing any. I have a couple, actually. My first question is, do your recommendations here, are they restricted to gas-powered leaf blowers or other gas-powered gardening equipment as well, such as mowers and trimmers?
I restricted my report to gas leaf blowers because that was what was referred to the Environmental Quality Commission. But not only that, gas-powered lawn mowers don't tend to have the same issues associated with them. For one thing, they often do have a catalytic converter. They are less emitting than backpack leaf blowers. And the other equipment such as chainsaws and what are those little string trimmer things? They are not used as often, as constantly as the leaf blowers, and they do not make the same noise, which is the basis of most citizen complaints.
Okay, thank you. Another question I had was, you mentioned electric leaf blowers being acceptable for all but the most difficult of jobs, you said. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit. Are there jobs for which a gas-powered leaf blower is required, or it's simply that more time would be required to do it with an electric leaf blower? And are these jobs that that gardeners and citizens of Menlo Park would expect to encounter?
not being a landscape professional myself, I can only give you a couple of examples, but I'm sure there's many more. But one in particular that's mentioned in these studies would be the moving of wet leaves, heavy, large amounts of material that has become wet. It can be difficult to move with the most powerful electric blower, and you might need to use the extra power that you can get from a corded blower or a gas-powered blower, in which case you would recommend using the 4-stroke version. And of course, those types of tasks can all be done by hand anyway. You don't need to use a piece of equipment in general. Taking care of a downed tree wouldn't involve a blower anyway.
It'd be a pretty powerful blower.
Yeah, that would be amazing and dangerous, I would think. So wet leaves and that type of heavy material was the type that I encountered in this research.
All right, thank you. Any other clarifying questions from the other commissioners? It doesn't look like it, in which case then we can move on to public comment. Ms. Almentroll, do we have any public comment on this item?
Just as a reminder for members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide a public comment, please engage your raised hand feature. I can then give you the ability to speak when it's your turn. For those who are on the landline or a cell phone, please dial *9 so you can raise your virtual hand. Our first comment is going to be from community member Klaus. Community member Klaus, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself so we can test your microphone.
Hi.
Great. Your 3 minutes start now. Please provide your public comment.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for addressing this. I've been living here for about 20 years, and I've just always been astonished that it's been allowed to go on so long. I'm surprised such a forward-thinking city is, like you said, maybe there's 90 other cities that have bans like this. I thought we'd be one of the first, but I guess 91st is better late than never. So that's great. One benefit in general that didn't come up, there's a lot of benefit to leaving leaf litter in soil areas. It's a good habitat for insects and a lot of benefits from that. It also helps preserve water in the ground. So I don't know if education about that might be part of any program that is put in place. And then lastly, you talked about enforcement applying to employers, not the operators themselves. And I think that's a great idea. I think about extending that to considering the property owners themselves as the employers, because they should really be responsible for what's happening on their own property. And another aspect of enforcement, I know when we've called to report, like spare the air violations, when things are being used on those days, the police are very helpful. They want to help. They get out as soon as they can, but by the time they're able to respond to a non-emergency like that, the incident's usually over, and then nothing can happen. So if somehow enforcement can be applied with videos or photographs, sort of after the fact thing, I think it might make it a lot more implementable. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, community member Klaus. Community member Scott Marshall, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and let's test to make sure that your microphone is enabled.
Hello, this is Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Your 3 minutes start now.
Great, thank you, commissioners. Commissioner Elkins, thank you for that presentation. I agree with everything that was on the presentation and the last comment from a member of the public about leaving leaves on the ground in certain situations, like in flower beds. Seems like a good idea. One thing I think the commission needs to look at would be getting a regional ban going. It wouldn't be fair to a landscaper gardener to have a ban in Menlo Park and then say cross over to Palo Alto. Maybe Palo Alto already has one somewhat, but maybe they go to Mountain View and they don't have one, and then they want to use their gas mowers. I mean, their gas blowers. So I think having some communication with the other areas around us and have this work together will be the easiest way to get a ban, because then those guys who work, those crews that work in this area are using the same equipment for every job they're doing. So that's just basically my addition to the presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marshall. We have Ms. Katie Hardrovic. You've been allowed to speak. Can you please test your microphone? Oh, unmute yourself and test your microphone.
Hello, yes. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. Your
Thank you.
3 minutes start now.
Thank you. My name's Katie Hadrovich. I'm a longtime resident of the Willow section of Menlo Park, and I am really glad to attend this meeting and to listen to the commission's thoughts on this topic. I want to commend Commissioner Elkins on the thoroughness of her report. I learned a lot from listening to it. I think that the issues she raises are an important step in the fight against climate changes that we can incorporate in our city. I appreciate the concern for health and also the considerations for the quality of life of all the residents, because as you walk around our community, certainly there's always a leaf blower going during the day. I hope the commission will forward this recommendation to the City Council for consideration. And thank you again for diving into this important topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hadrovic. Are there any other public comments for item C2, review and discuss Commissioner Elkins' recommendation to City Council on gas-powered leaf blower ban? Last call for, oh, we have one more comment. Mr. Peter Edmonds, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and test your microphone.
Thank you. My microphone is working.
Thank you very much. Your 3 minutes start now.
Yes. I hadn't intended to speak, but I'd like to express my support for this proposal, provided it doesn't distract the Commission and the Council too greatly from all of the goals and work that needs to be done to fulfill the Climate Action Plan. And that has been mentioned before, but I think it's worthwhile reiterating. Secondly, I agree and support the idea of leaving leaves on the ground. And another reason for doing that is that it returns biological material, organic material to the ground instead of transporting it to a landfill or some composting site where it doesn't do the owner of the garden that is receiving attention from the maintenance people. It doesn't do that owner any good to remove the organic material from his property. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edmonds. Once again, are there any other public comments for item C2? If there are no further comments on item C2, I return the meeting to you, Chair Payne.
Thank you, Ms. Almondral, and thank you to all the members of the public for taking their time to comment on this item. At this point, we can open up this item to discussion to the full EQC. Who would like to start? Oh, Tom, yes, please go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Elkins, for the very thorough report and examination of this important issue. And it certainly is one that strikes a chord in the community. And the leaf blower problem, as you mentioned in the report, it can travel up to 90 properties around the user of a leaf blower. So it is quite an annoyance, quite a disturbance of the peace. And as your report pointed out, also, it is a health and a safety problem, and it is impacting the user as well as the nearby people. And so I was interested in having this addressed very thoroughly and seeing if you would be willing to add to your recommendation that the commission recommend that the city council have the police department address this issue and do their study of it and develop what they think is the right way to deal with it. To me, this looks like it is in their realm. It is a disturbance of the peace, a public nuisance, and a public safety issue with the things it is doing to our nearby streets, sidewalks, and public travel ways. And they have the current ordinance. And so they may need to look at this opportunity to modify the current ordinance to make it effective so that they're not having to wait for sound level triggering and do that testing. They would be able to simply inform anyone using one of these machines that that is no longer in compliance and do whatever the police feel is appropriate to do to enforce an ordinance that they would develop. So I also agree with Mr. Edmonds that the commission and council is very busy on a matter of grave worldwide concern about the climate problem, and we need to avoid distractions. And I think that having the police step up to tackle this one would be one way to help keep us focused on our mission.
Commissioner Elkins, you have your hand raised?
Yes, so I really appreciate you framing it that way, Tom, because that's a little bit of the way that I was thinking, is that this really, does this question belong to the Environmental Quality Commission? It is a public health issue. It is a public nuisance issue. And I think that, and I never thought about the police department, but I did think that one way to, an appropriate way to avoid bogging down sustainability staff and other people who are working on the cap is to give this to a different department where it might more properly belong. And if that's the police, then that's fine. But yes, I agree that it's absolutely a public health and public nuisance, public safety type issue. Obviously as well as an environmental issue, but as we've discussed in the past, despite their egregious emissions profile, they are small potatoes compared to a lot of the other things that are affecting our climate.
I believe Commissioner Evans's hand was up next, and then Commissioner Gaylord.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Elkins, for your presentation. And I did read the report as well. And I agree that I think a ban on the gas-powered leaf blowers makes a lot of sense. I think it's the right thing to do for public health and has been the right thing to do for public health for quite some time, especially since temperatures are going up and heat combines with pollution to form more ground level ozone, which is obviously problematic, whether it's a spare the air day or not. I think it's the right thing to do to protect the health of the operators. And in reading your report, something like a buyback program that Portola Valley and Encinitas did that you referenced in your report, the costs of those were relatively small. I think Encinitas was 10,000, Portola Valley's was 6,000. Those are, as far as programmatic implementation in terms of what it could cost, let's say to the city, if not to the police department, to get a buyback program. Those strike me as very small costs relative to other costs I've seen for other programmatic implementation. And so in that sense, it feels like low-hanging fruit. I hadn't thought about the idea of the police department. I'm curious to see what others think. I mean, I think whatever's the most effective. I also agree that I want to make sure our staff has the time and the bandwidth to fully implement our cap, since we are in the middle of a climate crisis, and that's where we'll get the bulk of our emission reductions. So let's talk about that. But in overall, am supportive of this ban and would like to find a way to make it work, whether it's through the city or through the police department. That's it.
Jump in. So thank you, Leah. You clearly did a ton of research on this, and I'm appreciating that. I also appreciate all of the public, concern. I hear about it. It comes to me, you're a good advocate, I think, for the community and sort of voicing the concerns. I actually have a question, and I wonder if Ms. Lucky could join. I have a question for sustainability staff, which is, having been on NQC for a couple of years, I know that in order to get a new ordinance or law passed, there's quite a long process. And I wonder, could you share with us your thoughts about what the process would look like, so that those who are relatively new, and including me, because I've seen it happen for a couple things, reach codes, but what is the normal public process? How many meetings would council need to have about this? Because my concern, I want this to happen, and yet I want climate, the carbon emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions from leaf blowers is really tiny compared to the three big emitters in our lives, which are water heaters, furnaces, and cars. So we don't really make much of a dent on climate. And yet if we divert half of our resources or half of our city council time to this topic, as opposed to water heaters, furnaces, and cars, I'm concerned that we kind of missed the mark a little bit. And so I would wonder about sequencing. Let's do this, but let's do it after we've done, after we've got a burnout ordinance for water heaters and furnaces, for example. But I'm wondering if maybe Ms. Lucky, you can speak to how long would this take, how much staff resource, and how much council time would this require?
Thank you, Commissioner Gillard. Yeah, I think, we've done ordinances. Typically, the time frame can run anywhere from a year or two from start to finish, but we'd have to research it some more to understand what kind of engagement processes the city council is seeking if they decide to go forward with a gas-powered leaf blower ban. So I think if the commission forwards this recommendation, that could potentially be a next step, is just to understand how long that would take and potentially which resources would be impacted.
But just very roughly, over a year or two, how much of your time, right now we have you, over a year or two, how much of your time would be dedicated to something like this? If you could just very roughly, would it be, is it 5%, 20%, just a rough idea?
So, I mean, generally it could be pretty significant. It depends, again, on the topic. Obviously, the city attorney's office would be involved in the process as well, and a few others. So, I mean, passing a policy and ensuring equity and all those other elements as far and public health and safety, those do take time. I think the public engagement process is probably the largest component, and also just understanding equity both from a health perspective and a financial perspective.
Sorry to keep peppering you with questions, but typically how many times would this have to be agendized for council? There would usually, I mean, in my experience, there's usually a study session, at least a study session. They'd have to approve public engagement, so that'd be another meeting, and then there'd be reviewing the draft ordinance, and then a first reading and a second reading. So maybe 6 meetings for council, something like that.
Yeah, in that range.
Okay. And the public outreach process, you would imagine for this would be community meetings and that type of thing. We'd hire a consultant, et cetera, or?
Well, the city's taking different approaches depending on what the topic is with the community and who's impacted by it. So there would need to be a public engagement plan, it could potentially be bringing in folks like consultants to help with the engagement to ensure that everyone who is impacted is reached. That includes the landscaping industry.
And sorry, last question. Would there be a cost effectiveness study required? Like, would we pay a consultant for that?
Well, I think that would depend on what council is seeking.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Evans?
I guess my question builds on that. I mean, I was hoping that the time that staff and council would need to put into this would be a lot less than perhaps what we've seen historically with, studying the ban of or the burnout of gas appliances in the home, simply because our neighboring cities have done this for quite some time. Palo Alto, Los Altos is two, and Portola Valley, that there would be hopefully less to study, or that we could leverage existing studies that those municipalities have already undertaken. I mean, obviously Menlo Park still needs to do due diligence that's specific to its own city, but I wonder if there's a way to expedite the process, leverage existing work so that it doesn't need to be as big of a commitment as it would be if our neighbors hadn't already done this successfully. Rebecca, I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think there's always great things to leverage off of what others have done already, and looking toward the future too, as to how the state legislation is going to impact things and how they can help either progress a policy forward because it's offering incentives. But I think all of those things still need to be analyzed. Menlo Park is also very unique. This isn't the first time the community has talked about gas-powered leaf blowers. It's there is history behind it. Although again, I wouldn't say that the history means it's going to be the same outcomes as today. But it definitely is a concern, and it is a transition for a professional industry to make.
Yeah. Thank you.
I wonder if I could interject just briefly and then move on to Commissioner Cabot's question. I just wanted to ask regarding these other cities that have done it and the way Menlo Park did it in the past, which departments are typically in charge with drafting and passing this sort of ordinance?
I guess that's a question for me, and I don't think I can answer that. I just know from my own knowledge that certainly the city attorney's office would be involved in drafting an ordinance, but no, I could find that out.
We could always make a recommendation to, pursue this in a way that specifically doesn't impact implementation of use cap resources otherwise used for implementation of, use in a way that doesn't use city resources in a way otherwise implemented for cap implementation, such as the police department, and put it out as a suggestion rather than specifying that part, rather than hanging everything on that one department recommendation. And sorry, Commissioner Cabot.
Thank you. I was just wanting to follow up along those lines, as that is my big concern, is that the leaf blower problem is a problem in the process of a solution already, where AB 1346 is on the governor's desk that would end the sale of new devices after 3 years. And we're nowhere near anything like that for the climate problem. And also that 30 to 90 cities in California already have gone ahead of us and restricted the use of those devices. And so we're nowhere near leading on that. Yet the climate problem is something that dearly needs our leadership so that others may follow and start doing the progress that will really help our town. When another town bans leaf blowers, it doesn't help keep the bay down. But when other towns followed us in the REACH code, and we're up to 50 cities plus the state now following, that is the type of thing that spreads nationwide, worldwide, and people see that we're serious about making progress. So I agree with, I believe it was Commissioner Evans and Gaylord mentioning that we do not want to distract council effort from the problem of climate change. That is the biggest problem that needs the help of some city willing to step forward. So I strongly recommend that we structure it the way Chair Payne, that you've mentioned, that we make the recommendation that council look at this issue in a way that does not impact their ability to move quickly and decisively on climate.
Commissioner Gaylord?
Yeah, it was interesting when you, Commissioner Payne or Chair Payne, were saying, maybe the language would be as long as this doesn't impact staff attention or staff resources. But I'm equally concerned about staff resources and council resources and attention. I mean, they already have, because Tom and I working on the CAP are often trying to get things on their agenda. They already have these packed agendas where, like, many months out, they have these like 6 and 7 hour meetings and they just can't squeeze another thing in. So if we start putting in, 6 meetings related to leaf blowers, that pushes out other things. And they only have so many hours in their public servant lives to be able to meet. So I'm just struggling because I want to do something on this issue. And yet I know that resources are limited, and the resources are not just staff, but it's also council attention and time. So I'm really struggling with what to do. I don't know the best decision here, but something tells me, because of the looming climate crisis, that is where we need to really stay focused.
Commissioner Elkins?
My response to that would be to frame this as a public safety and public health issue that doesn't belong to the sustainability department. It shouldn't. I would certainly accept changing the recommendation so it specified that CAP resources were not to be diverted towards this, and whether or not the council has time in its agenda to address this should be up to council. I think if we forward them the recommendation with that caveat that the CAP is not to be harmed, that it's up to them to decide whether or not they want to spend time on it.
On a slightly different note, I just wanted to jump back to one of the public comments. I can't remember which one now at this point, but they raised the question of the fine. Maybe after a first citation, the fine would come down not on the gardener, but on the employer, meaning the property owner specifically. I guess that's actually how I first interpreted it in your report when you said the employer, meaning the property owner. I guess, is that what you meant, or how would you feel about? I personally feel like that seems like a good solution. Again, it's their property. They should have a say on what's going on. If they've been given a warning, they know to enforce in the future. That
right. I mean, that's what I meant by employer. I mean,
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess there's situations where the property owner is not the employer. If a renter, for example, hired the gardener, that they would be the employer versus the property owner.
Okay. I wasn't sure after that comment if you had meant property owner or whoever owned the gardening company in the case that it was something
Sorry,
like that.
no,
yeah.
That's what I meant.
Commissioner Gaylord?
So I may get into hot water here, but I'm just trying to come up with a creative solution. It may be a terrible idea, but what if, we're trying to, because furnaces and water heaters are 50% of our greenhouse gas emissions in the city, roughly. 40% roughly. What if we rolled into whatever ordinance we're able to craft eventually? What if we rolled in the leaf blowers into that? So it's like, as someone's leaf blower burns out, that, they wouldn't be able to use whatever, a new one.
Well, as somebody pointed out, that there won't be the ability to buy a new gas blower after not a very long time from now. So I think the ban is required in order to prevent people from stocking up on gas blowers, from continuing to use them, even though they aren't for sale anymore in the state of California. So a burnout would just mimic the AB 1346.
Just to clarify, AB 1346 only stops the sale, not the usage of them.
It directs CARB to set new standards for this type of equipment that is zero emission. And so therefore that is an effective end of sale for gas.
End of sale. Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Evans?
Okay, at the risk of repeating myself, I guess what I keep coming back to is I don't know, maybe I'm overly optimistic. I feel like there's got to be a way to do this and keep our cap goals, because the thing is, this has been done so many times before and by so many of our neighbors. Is there a way to craft the EQC recommendation in a way that recommends that this be heavily streamlined? That when I say this, I mean the process through which this goes through the city and the council, that this be heavily streamlined to reflect the fact that we have 3 nearby neighbors who have successfully implemented this. In some cases, Los Altos since 1991. I mean, there are very strong precedents for this. Are there ways to craft our recommendation in a way that says that we want to make this go through faster, more easily, to reflect the fact that we're in a different situation as a municipality with respect to this one than we are with the gas-powered appliances in our homes? Anyone have thoughts around how we could craft a recommendation in that?
So would that be like, as long as it takes no more than 10 hours of staff time and 2 hours of council time or something like that?
I hadn't thought about those specifics, but yeah, that's what I was interested in brainstorming as a commission. Like, how can we put a cap on how much work this will actually take from our city to get it done? Because it feels, if it weren't for all this global warming work that we need to do so urgently, it otherwise feels like a relatively, dare I say, easy thing to move forward, given that there are such strong precedents, given that it's not that expensive, given that so many people are supportive of it. So that's an interesting idea. Does anyone have any other ideas on how a recommendation could recommend streamlining this through a city process? Has something like that ever been done before, where a recommendation for a commission recommends that this be done faster, more simply?
Commissioner Caput, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. So along those lines raised by Commissioner Evans, I was thinking, what if instead of not labeling the priority of this issue, that the commission recommends that council consider this as a second priority to climate change, and that they consider it as an issue of public nuisance and public safety and consider what is the appropriate department to address those. That would free up sustainability staff to continue the important work on the climate.
It sounds like we have, oh, sorry, Commissioner Evans.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I mean, it sounds like we've had a number of recommendations for ways we can word this recommendation so it specifically doesn't detract from sustainability staff's time to work on CAP issues. And the issue we're facing now is how does it not also take away from council's time specifically? Could we, I don't know how much they would take into account, but could our recommendations just add that as well and say, we recommend exploring this, modeling off of our neighboring cities that have done it in a way that does not use council or staff or minimizes use of council or staff resources that would otherwise be directed towards implementation of CAP goals, such as through, like you said, treating as a public health and safety issue to be addressed by police, something like that. Sorry, Commissioner Evans, I don't know if your hand is just still up or.
I forgot to remove it.
Oh, no, that's all right. Commissioner Elkins? I believe you're still muted.
I pushed the button. Okay. I'm there. So I think it could be rewritten so that it's stated that we see it as an issue for another department, that it should not detract from the CAP goals, and staff time should not be taken away from those more important first priority goals. But at the same time, any staff and that any staff report should not attempt to recreate the wheel or to come up with any novel approaches, but rather to look to the neighboring cities for how they implemented this successfully. So that would just be a matter of how we put it in how we rewrote the recommendation.
Can I throw one more idea out there? What about saying we address this, we staff council address this after a burnout ordinance has been passed?
Yeah, I would support that type of an ordering. I think it would help departments stay motivated to meet the the public's interest in pursuing both the long-term climate problem and this immediate assault on the senses brought on by gas-powered leaf blowers. I'm wondering if the commission's recommendation can include language like, to look into the feasibility of adopting an ordinance emulating those surrounding us in an expedient manner following the adoption of CAP 1 measures. There's the council's not at a point where they've decided how to pursue CAP 1. CAP 1 being the electrification of 95% of existing buildings by the year 2030.
Commissioners Evans and Elkins, any thoughts on this suggestion?
I'm actively thinking here. Would there be any way for us to, in the meantime, ask council to introduce some language that says we are anticipating a ban by such and such date after we have completed CAP 1, or however that language might look? Is there a way to get some language on the table, even if we don't have enforcement yet, to send a market signal? And could that be done swiftly, easily? If not, then I would agree with Tom and Josie that we need to make sure that we get the bulk of our carbon emissions to have the focus of our council and staff first, and then get this one done. I'm just, again, perhaps I'm holding on too tightly, but I'm just trying to find creative ways to get some language on the book, some policy, even if it's not perfect, so to speak, yet, to send a market signal, to get people moving in the direction that we'd like them to move, which is away from the gas-powered blowers, to get some improvements in public health while we try to do everything else.
I support a lot of the talk of language we've been going around with in terms of saying this should not, this should not detract from council or staff time on pursuing CAP priorities on greatest emissions reduction, things like that. I guess I'm a little wary of specifically tying it to a burnout ordinance because it kind of feels like holding it hostage to another measure that they have not yet passed. But I wonder if we couldn't, again, just use language to direct council to, at their best judgment and discretion to minimize the amount of time everyone is, minimize the amount of time all parties involved are spending on this that would otherwise detract from time and resources spent on CAP, and again, leveraging the models set by our direct neighbors. Those are just my thoughts right now. Sorry, Commissioner Gaylord and Cabot, I didn't see what order in which your hands went up.
Yeah. Did you want to go? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on one thing or pivot off of one thing Chair Payne mentioned. So certainly we don't direct council at all. We only make recommendations, and so we're just looking at how do we craft our recommendations so they understand our priorities and they don't misunderstand that we have we've reordered priorities, because we have not, or I don't think we have. We'll see what the vote says, but so we just want to be clear with them only what our recommendation is. They're going to make their own decisions about what they do, and they'll think it over. So we'll just have to figure out how do we make our suggestion, our recommendation to them, and set them up for them understanding us.
That's a fair point. I feel like we could, include in whatever recommendation, say something about how our priority remains to remove emissions, from largest to smallest, and so our focus would still, our suggestion would still be on removing larger sources of emissions, but that it is necessary to pursue policies to eliminate these sources of emissions as well.
So one thing on messaging, I think it's important to, it's not just like, it's like cars, furnaces, water heaters, gas leaf blowers in terms of carbon emissions. There would be many other things that would be in there, stoves and other things before we got to leaf blowers, because it's quite small in terms of the contribution to carbon emissions and climate change. So when we talk about emissions, I think we should be careful because there's different kinds of emissions. The emissions from leaf blowers are horrible for people's lungs. Yeah. However, and so when we talk about the Raptor emissions, that's the particulate matter that came out of that car when it was traveling from whatever it was, Florida to Alaska. The carbon emissions, no, it's completely, that's not the right math. And so I feel like our council probably doesn't know that. And I feel like when this gets presented, the council needs to understand relatively for climate, why we're so concerned about this distracting attention. So I wonder if we can include something like recognizing that leaf blowers are a public health nuisance and a noise problem, but that they only contribute like 1% or whatever the number is to the city's greenhouse gas emissions, that informs our recommendation to keep this as a lower priority, and that it be tackled by the city after an ordinance is in place. We don't have to call it a burnout ordinance, but an ordinance is in place to prohibit the sale of gas water heaters and furnaces.
Yeah, what if we said something like, just like you were saying, to make clear that the main drawbacks from gas-powered leaf blowers are not their contribution to climate change, but issues related to human health and safety and nuisance. And as such, we recommend, again, as Tom initially suggested, the police explore this as a health and safety issue, but that resources, as ever, the EQC's priority is that resources not be diverted from council or staff that would otherwise be spent on CAP goals.
Yep. And one way to maybe help make the point to the council so they can see it when the issue comes before them would be to have a little 2-axis graph. And on one side is carbon emissions, and on the other side is criteria pollutants that damage lungs. And you show where the Raptor is and so the Raptor is way up the carbon side with very little criteria pollutants, and the leaf blower is way up the criteria pollutants lung damage axis with very little emissions of carbon, because it only burnt a small amount of gasoline and oil, and it burnt it very badly and then put it into your lungs. So just being able to show them those things, because the anti-leaf blower community has done too good a job at conflating these issues of emissions, and we're in a position where we understand our council needs to be able to separate them. And so we as an advisory body can do them a service by helping show them that kind of a graph so that they know which is which, criteria pollutants or damaging lungs, or the climate damaging carbon pollutions. Thank you.
I do wonder where the Raptor would actually fall. I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a recent study on the particulate emission from tires and brake pad wear. And so that's more in line with the particulate emission we're discussing. Again, there's more than 2 types of pollution. There's many types, and I imagine we need an n-dimensional graph to effectively show all of those. But if we could lump climate affecting pollutants and health affecting pollutants and say this is merely an approximation, because otherwise this becomes a bigger challenge to quantify all those things. Sorry, was someone else's hand raised, or, oh yes, Commissioner Evans.
Tom, you still had your hand up. I don't know, yours was up before mine just went up again. Did you have another question? Okay. Could you guys, or Tom, could you describe the process of what it would look like to have the police department take ownership? We would be asking them to enforce the policy that's on the books now more robustly? Are we asking them to do additional? I guess that's the piece that's a little fuzzy in my brain, is what are we actually asking them to do? I'm trying to imagine what that would look like and see how effective that could be.
So we would only be making a recommendation to the city council.
Oh, right. Yes.
The council look at the issue with the proper department in mind, and that between the council and its department that they figure out how they want to approach it. I don't think it's an area that we have any jurisdiction. We the EQC.
Okay.
So I just want to toss out sort of, unless there are other thoughts here, toss out maybe a sample motion just to see how it sort of sits with everyone. Oh, Commissioner Elkins.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that last discussion regarding the Ford Raptor versus the leaf blower and criteria pollutants versus carbon emissions, climate crisis versus public health just reiterates or emphasizes that this isn't necessarily an issue that belongs to the Environmental Quality Commission or to the sustainability department. And I think that we should make that, even they sent it to us, and so we had to make a recommendation, but we can craft the recommendation to point that out, that this, that, you know, upon our report, it's clear that this gas leaf blowers are not a major contributor to climate change, but on the other hand, are an extreme public nuisance and a danger to public health. And we do recommend that council do something about it, as long as it's not taken away from the important work in the climate action plan, because that is a separate and more important category.
That sounds actually a lot like the sample motion I was going to suggest. So if I can mostly repeat your words,
Right.
it'd be something like, upon council's direction, EQC has examined this issue and concluded that while the climate threat of leaf blowers is not significant, they do pose a significant risk to health, safety, and public well-being. Accordingly, we recommend that council explore a ban on gas-powered leaf blowers modeled after our neighboring cities, to be implemented as a health and safety issue by the police department, but not to detract from EQC priorities of climate, or not to detract from the time and resources that would be spent on the EQC priority of climate change by CAP or city staff, or by council or city staff. Sorry, that ended up a little bit wordy, but I was trying to sort of capture everything we've talked about there.
Did you write that all down?
Did somebody write it all down?
I did not, but it sounded great.
Maybe
So
Candace did.
just to make sure that I captured it properly, the recommendation is to explore a ban of gas-powered leaf blowers modeled after neighboring municipalities as a health and safety issue, limiting impacts to city council and staff resources on CAP priorities.
Yes, but specifically with some introductory language about how we've explored this at council direction, concluded it's not a significant climate threat, but it is a significant threat to health, safety, and public well-being.
Yeah, that part is super important. And I wish we could get a number on it. So when we say not significant, that they understand it's like a 1% problem on climate or less. Tom's saying less.
Much smaller. Yeah, it's a few gallons of gasoline and oil a day. It's there's not that much carbon in there, but there's lots of lung damaging pollutants.
Okay, so you just to make sure that I've captured this properly, you want to include language that states that you've explored this at council direction and determined it's not a significant threat to climate, that it is a threat. While it's not a significant threat to climate, it is a significant threat to public health and safety, and recommend exploring the ban, modeled after neighboring municipalities, while limiting impacts to city council and staff resources on CAP priorities.
So it'd be great if you could read that back just a little more streamlined, but I would like stronger language, not just limiting staff and council resources. And if there's some way to say something about that we see this as a from a climate perspective, it's like almost like it's not even on the radar, right? Like it's before that, it would be stoves, dryers, construction equipment. Like there's so many other carbon emitting, even like the landfill issue, like there's so many other things that come before it. So if there's some way to say from a climate perspective, this is like a minuscule problem, is there some language we can put in there about that? Candace, is there a way for you to show the language on the screen, maybe?
I'm unsure. I'm going to defer to Sustainability Manager Rebecca Lucky.
Yeah, so I think what might be good is if we can get a summary, if you have specific language, then we can include that. I think the motion maker can help us with how you would like to articulate it. And typically, we try to shoot for short and concise motions. It helps provide clarity, and we can attach the memo as is. So if there's a way you want to use that to forward to City Council, that might be helpful just to ensure accuracy. And we do have the meetings recorded, so we can go back. We just need to make sure we understand what words you'd like to use.
I would appreciate seeing it up on the screen because we've just had so many issues with note taking not being quite right.
Yeah, and I think part of that would be helpful. So we have the memo itself, and typically this is the same for City Council minutes. The action items are very short and concise. And if we need to attach documents or you need to add to the memo, that might be the place to do it rather than in the action minutes.
James, do you want to say it one more time, and I'll also try to get it down, and then Candace and I could compare notes?
Sure.
Maybe speak a little bit slowly if you can.
Okay, will do. Just one thing first. Commissioner Elkins' hand is up. I wasn't sure if you had
Sorry
something.
to have cut her off if I did.
No, that's all right.
Can the report itself be amended to include that conclusion more expressly that that these emissions, while dangerous to health, are an area of concern. They're not. They don't have an impact on climate. I didn't. Could the report be amended to say that, and then we don't have to put it in the motion and recommendation?
The staff can correct me, but my understanding is that the report, yes, we could add a section like that. And then, yeah, we could go with sort of the language we had discussed before with one sentence leading and saying the impact is minimal, but then maybe an introductory paragraph in the report that elaborates on that a little bit more, just to, as Rebecca suggested, keep things sort of short for this executive summary.
Right, and is that something that would be done right at this exact moment, or something like I would do between now and the next meeting and then re-present it?
I think Rebecca's going to weigh in.
Yeah, I could provide a little bit of advice on that. So the EQC can give general direction to you, Commissioner Elkins, on what they'd like to see. And then you could go forward in modifying the memo that we could forward then to the City Council on October 12th.
Without the rest of the commission ever seeing the amended language or the inserted language?
Yeah, the commission in the past has done that. As long as it's very summarized bullet points, we want to just send this. The intent is this communication, that this is a higher priority, and staff does look over it to ensure that it does align with the action of the commission.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't sneak in all sorts of other controversial opinions and put them in our mouths. Okay, so yeah, then we would refer to the subcommittee basically to add such a paragraph at the beginning of the report.
Okay.
And other. Does that more or less sound good to everybody? And then we can just come up with our wording and have a motion and close this item?
Yes, sounds good to me.
All right. Is it still on me to try to say this motion again? Okay.
Moment, yeah.
So something like, at council direction, the EQC has examined the impacts of gas-powered leaf blowers and found that while impacts to the climate are negligible, there are significant impacts to human health, significant impacts on human health, noise, and well-being, something like that. Health, safety, and well-being, that's what I said before. As such, the EQC recommends that council explore the ban of gas-powered leaf blowers as a health and safety issue, perhaps to be handled by the police department, and that time and resources for council and staff that would be spent on climate priorities not be spent on this issue.
And then there was the additional piece of modeling it after what adjacent neighbors have
Yes.
done, with the
Yeah.
hope of getting them to make, not reinvent the wheel, not spend a ton of time on this.
Yeah, yeah, you put that at the beginning of the second sentence, that EQC recommends that council explore the ban of gas-powered leaf blowers as modeled on neighboring cities. And then the rest is follows. It's all right. Okay.
So I would just advise on not necessarily calling out a specific department, because we just need to look at that some more, but
Okay.
agree,
Then-
if it's possible for the police department,
Then-
we could look at that, but
And we could say then be handled as a health and safety issue to be addressed by the appropriate department.
One other idea, some people might be concerned about the word negligible in referring to the carbon emissions from leaf blowers. My quick calculations are that it's likely less than 1/100th of 1%. And so we might say something like that, but not give it a label like negligible. Negligible could be in the eye of the beholder. But I find it is a very small percentage. I'm guessing less than 1/100th of a percent, given that the average household probably is using 1,000 gallons of gasoline a year with their multiple cars, and not everyone has a gas leaf blower and they don't use it much. And so the few homes on a block that get it use a gallon a year.
For what it's worth, I did a quick search for this and found only one source that specifically said percent of carbon emissions, and it said 0.5% of US carbon emissions from all gas-powered gardening equipment. So that includes lawnmowers and trimmers and other things like that. That being said, I didn't bring it up before because it was from a lawnmower manufacturer. So I thought that it might be a somewhat biased source, but if anything, it would be biased. They probably chose the most generous looking number. So we could,
Mhm. And most of that would be in riding mowers.
Yeah.
So can someone read back the motion to me?
I'm just,
Oh yeah, sorry. I wasn't sure if you knew you were
was
muted.
thinking it. Candace probably was too, but
I think it might be good if we just hear it one more time, and then we can.
from James
we're
or
clear.
from me or Candace?
The motion maker. So
Yeah, hopefully from someone who wrote it down, because I was just dictating.
Can we hear it from Angela? Because she's
Okay.
written it down.
There's a few edits, and then my dog was being ridiculous. So I'll do my best here. So here is what I heard and wrote as quickly as I could. At council direction, the Environmental Quality Commission has examined the impacts of gas-powered leaf blowers and found that while impacts on climate are likely to be, and then I have brackets there, far less than 1%, but it's probably even less than that. And let's get a better number. There are significant impacts to human health, safety, and well-being. The Environmental Quality Commission recommends that council explore, those bans on gas-powered leaf blowers enacted by neighboring cities to, I have avoid reinventing the wheel, which is, we might want to tighten that language. Next sentence, as such, the EQC recommends to explore, as such, the Environmental Quality Commission recommends the council explore this issue as a health and safety issue to be handled potentially by the police department. Time and resources of staff and council should not be detracted from those dedicated to capital implementation. The last sentence needs to be reworked a little bit. That's basically what I got down.
Yeah, and it sounds like one modification was instead of saying police department specifically, just say appropriate department.
Okay. Okay.
So it sounds like really the missing thing is just that less than 1% figure. Are we comfortable putting less than 1% in, or is that a figure we would want to be filled in after the subcommittee has written?
I'm
its-
fine with that. Less than one, far less than 1%. I'm
I
fine.
have far less than 1%. Mhm.
Okay, all
Okay.
right,
And I
then do
have
we,
it.
so Angela, then were you making the motion?
Okay, then I make the motion that that is the language that we move forward to recommend to council.
All right, do we have a second for the stated motion? No seconds on the stated motion?
I second.
Commissioner Cabot, seconds stated motion. All right, Ms. Almentroll, can you take roll call?
So just before Candace takes roll call, Angela, Commissioner Evans, is it possible for you to email that so that we're clear since you've written down the motion?
Yes.
And then the second part of that is just ensuring we capture in the minutes that Commissioner Elkins is going to be making some updates to the memo that we're going to forward, and making sure we understand or summarize what those are going to be. 'Cause I'm not sure that I'm clear on it.
Yes, so, and then add on as well that EQC directs the subcommittee, Commissioner Elkins, to add language on the climate versus health impacts at the beginning of her memo.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, that was one motion. We're still going to do roll call vote with that friendly amendment to direct the subcommittee to add the language as stated.
I believe so, yes. Unless the people who sponsored the motion and seconded have an issue with that.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
All
I
right.
guess Commissioner Evans is as well. So
Yeah.
take a roll call vote. Commissioner Elkins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Geller,
Aye.
Commissioner Cabot,
Aye.
Chair Payne,
Aye.
motion passes.
All right, so that concludes item C2. And with that, we can take our slightly belated 7:30 break. Should we meet back in 5 minutes, so 7:52:53, and move on to item C3? All right, it looks like we're only missing Commissioner Cabot, and then we can resume. All right, looks like everyone is back. As long as city staff is. But I'll go ahead and resume and we'll find out soon enough. All right, so we're resuming our meeting and we are now on item C3, the informational presentation on modification of the 2030 Climate Action Plan progress reporting, methodology, and clarification of the goals. So Sustainability Manager Rebecca Lucky is going to introduce this item. And looks like I can see your screen.
Hello. Let me see. Are you able to hear me? Yes.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair Payne. So tonight is an informational presentation on the modification of the 2030 CAP progress reporting and methodology and clarification of goals. So I also have Candace Almendril, who's been taking our notes for the meeting and action minutes, and she'll be presenting. She was the lead on preparing our progress report.
And I'm here. Sorry, thank you.
So no, I'm sorry, my slide was not changing. So some background on this, the Environmental Quality Commission did review the draft progress report in July, and staff talked about some challenges and some opportunities and wanted to return with recommendations on improving reporting methodology for future reports based on this first time reporting experience. And at that time in July, the EQC deferred to the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee, consisting of Commissioner Gillard, Cabot, and Chair Payne to provide feedback to the Commission, which is our next agenda item. So some challenges and opportunities that were identified in putting together the progress report. Some of the metrics identified in the CAP were challenging to obtain or were not necessarily suited for annual reporting. So some metrics would be good for looking at policy or program implementation. Other challenges was trying to align the metrics with progress on the 6 CAP goals that the City Council adopted and prioritized for the city to work on. And also in talking to some other departments who helped to provide metric or data and metrics to the progress report, there was some challenges in understanding the goals with some of the work that they're working on and potential future work as well. And so where we found opportunities was to really try to look at the metrics identified in the CAP and how they could be incorporated into reporting progress on the 6 adopted goals. And it also really provided a very good platform to kind of talk through and see where there were gaps in implementing some of the goals. And I think that's going to be probably the most significant aspect of the progress report and moving forward and having a conversation with the City Council about what might be needed to really execute these CAP goals. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Candace. As I mentioned, she was a lead on the progress report and has been working with the departments and external governmental agencies on collecting data. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lucky. So when approaching kind of how to increase efficiencies for future progress reporting, we kind of determined some evaluative criteria. We wanted the metrics that we were reporting to capture the progress in the form of emissions reduced or increased to really speak to the 2030 carbon neutrality goal. We wanted all of the data that we obtained to be as easy as possible, obviously to increase efficiency to be publicly available so that if a community member would want to kind of have access to that we have that level of transparency for the data that we're collecting and that it could be obtained annually. We also were really focused on communicating on a high level progress, constraints and opportunities specific to the adopted strategies, so that we could really kind of hone in and make sure that we were really speaking to and working towards CAP progress. And obviously we wanted to work to incorporate the 2030 Climate Action Plan metrics to the greatest extent possible. Next slide, please. So for strategy number 1, which is existing building electrification, the suggestion is to report annually the total therms of natural gas consumed in Menlo Park. That'll give us a complete view of the emissions that are actually the emissions related to the natural gas consumption. And it's a direct metric that we get from PG&E every year and is part of an established greenhouse gas inventory data collection. And along with every metric that's kind of being suggested, the continuation of that narrative piece to kind of capture those ongoing efforts that may translate to reductions in the future or may not have a specific data point necessarily, so that we can really, again, communicate all of the programs and projects that are being worked on by the city. So for this specific strategy, it would be special programs or policies implemented by the city or its partners, such as like permit streamlining, again, that wouldn't have like a reduction necessarily, or, you know, education or outreach, so that we can kind of, again, capture that good work that wouldn't have a direct reduction per se. For strategy number 2, which is setting a goal to increase new electric vehicle sales to 100% by 2025 and decrease gasoline sales 10% year over year compared to a 2018 baseline. The suggestion is that the goal be kind of reframed with the intent to drive and capture increases in the total community fleet. Again, this is to really communicate as efficiently as possible the total reductions, or in worst case scenario, increases associated with the emissions, the potential transportation emissions. And that is a 2030 climate action plan metric that is being suggested to be kept. In addition to that would be the gallons of gasoline that are sold in Menlo Park, which is another direct metric that's reported to the CAC annually. And the short narrative would capture any related programs or policies implemented by partners, in addition to implemented by the city, partners such as Beyond Gas Initiative, which was directed by City Council to kind of take the lead on this strategy.
Candace, can I ask you a question?
Sure. I think we're going to do clarifying questions at the end of the presentation. Just is that right? Sorry. Or did we want to go point by point?
I don't want to go point by point, but I'm confused by reframe the goal with the intent to drive increases in total community fleet. Is that what you meant?
A total electric vehicles in the community fleet.
Okay.
I apologize for the typo.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for catching that. I've read it so many times that I missed it. I apologize. Great. So next slide, please. So strategy number 3, expand access to electric vehicle charging. The suggestion is to communicate annually the total available electric vehicle charging stations, the increase to total available electric vehicle charging stations accessible to multifamily and commercial properties. This is actually something that's really, I think, exciting. The city is working with its geographic information system to create an EV charging infrastructure map and dashboard that will automatically be updated with alternative fuels data center data. That's the Department of Energy, to update the EV charging locations. The dashboard will have the ability to kind of filter data in such a way that we can view new charging stations and their proximity to specific property type like multifamily and commercial. So that could be communicated annually fairly easily. And then the narrative piece would help capture those kind of harder to to quantify efforts and programs such as, Peninsula Clean Energy's incentive programs and things that don't necessarily communicate a direct reduction. So for strategy number 4, the current strategy is to reduce vehicle miles traveled. The suggestion is to reframe the goal with the intent to expand and enhance multimodal opportunities, multimodal meaning like bike lanes, sidewalks, things like that will reduce the community's dependence and reliance on personal vehicle travel. Unfortunately, VMT is an estimate and calculation methodologies vary. Even sources like Google's Environmental Insights Explorer uses proprietary data to provide a more refined estimate. So the recommendation to reframe it gives the city a little bit kind of more flexibility while still honoring the intent, which is to get people out of their vehicles as much as possible. So the mode share metric would be the methods of travel used by the community, and the city currently tracks program data associated with its shuttle use and safe routes to school. It recently adopted a transportation demand management ordinance, which will also have reporting requirements so that we could derive data from there. The city is also planning to create a map of city managed roads and existing multimodal infrastructure. Think similar to the kind of map dashboard I was describing for the electric vehicle charging infrastructure, to kind of track those improvements and installations in kind of like miles or feet. So next slide, please. Strategy number 5, which is the elimination of the use of fossil fuels in municipal operations. The suggestion is to use actually the municipal greenhouse gas inventory. There are obviously fossil fuel consumption in building energy use and fossil fuel consumption in fleet and equipment use, but the municipal greenhouse gas inventory also captures emissions related to fossil fuels that may be consumed during like employee commute. So it gives us just the most kind of overarching and biggest picture that we can to make sure, again, that we're driving towards that 2030 carbon neutral goal. Just a kind of note for the municipal greenhouse gas inventory going forward. The approach will be to do building energy use by specific building or facility, obviously individual meters allowing, so that we could, the city can really kind of hone in and prioritize kind of the worst offenders, or know where the bodies are buried, kind of. And the greenhouse gas inventory can also capture reductions that may not necessarily be associated with fossil fuel consumption, such as zero waste implementation efforts that may be undertaken by human resources or another division or department that implements a program or an effort that may be outside of the fleet or facilities divisions that might have captured the kind of bigger reductions. For strategy number 6,
Candace, sorry, on 5, is it a typo to not have the gasoline here, or is that intentional for 5? So the metric suggested is the greenhouse gas inventory, which has building energy use, fleet, which has the gasoline and diesel fuel consumption, employee commute, I apologize. I always try to say commuter benefit, employee commute, and waste. So all of those would be captured and communicated. Okay.
Sorry, for strategy number 6, which is adopt a climate adaptation plan. The suggestion is to reframe the goal with the intent to address climate resiliency beyond sea level rise, and also it's just a very specific goal, and it can miss kind of the city's ongoing efforts to make the community more resilient. Also, the idea of climate resiliency is like dynamic. The impacts of climate change on health and safety and equity are still unfolding. So by reframing it with the intent to address the climate resiliency beyond sea level rise, we have more flexibility to adjust. The city has more flexibility to adjust its approaches as necessary. Unfortunately, because it's so dynamic, there are no like discrete data points to communicate resiliency. So the reporting recommendation is to provide short narratives on related city programs and policies, like the adoption and implementation of the local hazard mitigation plan, the adoption and implementation of the safety and environmental justice elements, which will all have pieces of climate resiliency. The Safer Bay construction implementation progress, which will kind of protect the shoreline, and partnerships with other agencies that provide kind of flood protection or ecosystem restoration. Next slide, please. Thank you. As I mentioned, for strategy number 5, the intent is to continue to do the greenhouse gas inventories. While greenhouse gas inventories are high-level estimates, they do provide the city with a big picture snapshot. Updating the inventories annually provides a little bit more like flexibility, so the city can spot, regional and state trends and maybe adjust its local efforts kind of accordingly. Just kind of a note: the city uses ICLEI, the Local Governments for Sustainability ClearPath software to estimate these emissions. And it's the first and largest global network of local governments devoted to sustainability. And the city's been using this, ICLEI's methodologies to do these calculations since it started tracking its emissions. What's great about ICLEI is, in addition to their modeling, which is what we use to estimate our greenhouse gas emissions, ICLEI also provides additional tools and expert support to improve climate action planning. So another note to make is the data sources that are suggested for kind of tracking annual progress at the local level as much as possible. There's quite a bit of overlap with data that we would use for the greenhouse gas inventory. So there's again a reporting efficiency to pursue both in parallel. And just due to the impacts of external factors to tracking community-wide greenhouse gas emissions, the suggestion is that they be considered on a kind of rolling average to level out the volatility of a big regional effort, such as switching to peninsula clean energy, so that there's a little bit more of a reflection on the local of local action. And with that, I turn it back to Ms. Lucky.
Thank you, Ms. Almendrel. So the next steps from this informational presentation is to provide the progress report as an info item to the City Council, and to update them on the reporting methodology and clarification of goals going forward. So some of the goal reframing would likely require amendment to the climate action plan. So it's really just a recommendation for future planning when the cap is updated, or the scope of the cap is updated for the next few years. So I just want to emphasize that it's a progress report, and really the main component we're addressing is increasing the efficiency of the reporting so that we can provide it on an annual basis without having to use significant staff resources, and ensuring that we're able to report accurately, so that we're able to implement climate action plan activities that are high priority to the City Council. And with that, that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucky and Ms. Almendrel. So with that, I believe we now move on to clarifying questions and public comment on this item, right? Before moving on to item C4. Okay, so are there any clarifying questions from EQC commissioners at this time? I'm not seeing any questions at this time. And again, we will have a discussion with an action to follow on the next item. So there'll be opportunities to discuss again. But for now, are there any public comments on this item?
Just as a reminder, if you'd like to make a public comment, please engage your raised hand feature. I will then have the ability to open your microphone and you can provide public comment to the EQC. For those calling in, please dial *9 to raise your virtual hand. Last call for comments on item C3, informational presentation on modification of the 2030 Climate Action Plan progress reporting methodology and clarification of the goals. There's no public comment. I return it to you, Chair Payne.
Thank you. All right, so with that then, since this is an informational item, we don't have an action on this item. We will move on to our next action item, item C4, which is related. We will review and discuss Commissioner Gaylord, Cabot, and myself, Chair Payne's recommendations on climate action plan tracking metrics. So with this, I believe Commissioner Cabot has some slides he's going to present.
Yes, I do. If I'm
right.
able to share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead and give it a shot.
All right.
All right.
I have two things I want to share. One is the memo already shared with the commission, this August 18th memo. And in it, it gets down into the weeds. And in it, the three of us, Commissioners Gaylord, Cabot, and Payne, are discussing individual measures to try to collect the type of data that we see as being important to have the council and staff be able to see whether we're accelerating our actions at a pace that can meet the goals in the climate action plan. And the goal in the climate action plan, one of them that we're really focusing in on here is whether we're accelerating towards electrification of buildings to be able to electrify 95% of them by the year 2030. So we were trying to make sure there was a tracking mechanism in place so that there was frequent and automatic tracking of what's happening with the machinery, the vehicles and infrastructure commitments, because those machines, those cars and furnaces and water heaters continue to emit for years and decades after they are purchased. So trying to essentially influence the purchase of the machines is our biggest effort, we think, is a strategy in pursuing these things. And I use the word strategy, really to mean strategy, how we go after things. These first 6 items that we put in last year's climate action plan, those are action items. They're not really strategies. They're telling what we wanted to do in that COVID budget constrained time. Those were the only 6 things we thought we could afford to get started on. And so those are the 6 action items that we think need some tracking with them. And then also we think, we've identified this issue of it takes quite a bit of time from staff and the calendar and the council to work our way through each one of these policies that come up for discussion. And if we're really going to be accelerating at the pace needed, we need to be looking at ways to make life easier, to simplify the process of implementing change so that we can preserve a climate unchanged. But rolling down the screen, though, we get to some screenshots, say, for the building department, and we're just giving specific advice about how to rearrange a few of the words and items in the online forms that people fill out when getting building permits, so that we will be able to know what they're doing and know whether they're responding to programs and efforts the city starts. So there'd be things like a box to check if they're doing residential wiring for electrification, as so, all of these homes need to be wired for electrification. That will become a big activity area. And then when they come to the issue of what they're doing for space heating or cooling, having the boxes in there that essentially tell them that we have a preferred alternative. The city is no longer neutral about how you go about cooling and heating your house. We now have a preference that you do it in a carbon-free way that preserves the climate so the community may thrive. And so it makes sense to kind of indicate the different choices, let people then tell us what they're doing, since we don't currently have an ordinance telling them they only get to do it the preferred way. They currently have choices. They can do it in ways that harm the climate or ways that don't. Same thing with the cooling. You know, we would have a box where they could check that they're going to get their cooling from a two-way machine, a heat pump that does both cooling and heating. And that's our preferred suggestion. Then when it comes to wiring, we'll have a few more suggestions, or let them tell us what they're doing. So we'll know where the city is making progress on those things. We won't have to be waiting for long lagging greenhouse gas inventories that are then rolled into 3-year averages to further lag them. So, I think we're going to need faster feedback. And so this is the advice we were putting together to give to staff, to share among staff at the different departments, to work out what is the type of data collection and signaling to the community that we think will work, both to inform the community of what we want, the preferred alternatives, and what is difficult, the hardest to decarbonize, so that when they're making their selections of equipment, they can tell us whether they're understanding it and whether they're going to cooperate with the direction the community is headed. So anyway, that's, this memo goes on and on, but it's information for staff so they can see, our ideas about how to improve the data collection and signaling to the community. There's also a link for where to get the latest up-to-date information from the Energy Commission about the vehicle registrations in town. And then, ways to be displaying the number of vehicles registered. That was, I think, already in there. There also are alternative methods, like starting to show people, for the different categories of things they want to do, like heating or air conditioning or water heating. They could tell us what is the existing equipment. And then there would be a column that's green. It says that we prefer that you pick things in this column, that you're doing these things. But since there is not an ordinance prohibiting installing the problem, they could still choose one of these gray or dark gray areas of choosing to not go with the direction the cities would like them to, but to instead install problematic devices that cause a risk for them and may have to be removed later. It's fairly expensive to retrofit them partway through, but if a city were to end the delivery of gas, that may, they may not get service out of those kinds of things. So people need to start considering what is the long run track for where we are going with our machinery and buildings and our climate efforts and progress. I have one more very short slide set to show you, if I can do another share here.
Yeah, I'll just provide a little context while Tom's bringing that up. So we wrote an original memo kind of suggesting, because I had been through the permit process, like where in the permit process we could just tweak a few things in order to actually be able then to be tracking good data on the number of permits that are for electric versus gas. Something that Acela, the software we use, could then generate an automatic report, which would avoid the what happened this year, which was the staff had to go through each one and like try to figure out based on the comments, was this electric or gas? Like that should not be the process. So we're recommending that the customer, when they're applying for the permit, just tick off, is this electric, gas, is this heat pump, what type is this? And then that information is captured and can be created in an automatic report. So it's not this time-intensive process that the staff apparently went through this year.
All right, well, thank you. And I've got about 6 slides here. I'll go through them fairly quickly. But basically, the reason to be collecting these types of metrics is so that course corrections can be considered and developed by staff. They can look at that. And also, I think the big issue that we've identified before is there is so much effort to do in preserving the climate and doing the work on those three big items, helping people get electric vehicles into their lives, electric space conditioning with the cooling, and electric heat pump water heating, that there may be new staffing commitments, and starting to display where we're staying on target and where we're falling behind will help the council understand the need to adjust staffing and or to simplify matters, whichever mix of those things is needed to get up to the required speed. But the types of metrics are really, reading to the right side, they're either leading indicators like activity metrics, or they're recent indicators like what's being installed in the recent building permits, or they're lagging indicators like the sold gas, and so tracked emissions from selling fossil fuel to the whole fleet of equipment. So these activity metrics are about activities that the staff and the Peninsula Clean Energy and maybe PG&E, all these other entities are involved in. And so it's programs started is one of those activities, financing's offered, ordinances adopted at a city level, and simplifications to processes made. Those are 4 examples of activities that the staff may be able to track. And they mention in their, I think they call it narrative reporting, but those kinds of activities of new things started in those areas. And then this one that I just went over was the tracking of the commitments. The community is taking out building permits and making commitments to equipment that lasts for decades and continues to do whatever it does, whether that's spew pollutants or whether it's clean equipment. So tracking what's going on, it'll help tell whether these programs are influencing those actions. And then the lagging indicator, the greenhouse gas emissions from the fuel sold. And so that's the tailpipe results, and plus we can calculate in the upstream as well. So those are the 3 types, and we recommend collecting all 3. They give you a variety of information. I've made a little stacked bar out of some of the data from the staff's report. This one was from table 7, just taking the table data as an example only and trying to see how it would look in a stacked bar graph if there were, this is about water heaters burning out. And if we had 12,000 homes in Menlo Park and water heaters lasted about 12 years, there would be about 1,000 of them burning out each year. And the number of permits that were pulled that were put in gas water heaters is shown in blue, and shown in red, you can't even find it, but there's one in 2019 that was a permit that went into an electric water heater. And then the yellow is all the water heaters that probably burnt out that didn't get permits and probably went to gas. So just being able to see that kind of tells you, well, we're not on a trajectory. This is not all going to electric yet. So we're not there. And then we know we need to accelerate. And so here's one more just being done here. If it were residential heating equipment, say furnaces, and so they last longer, so half as many burn out per year. And I put in some future year to be called 2020X. It's just an example only here, but it's just trying to show if we had that permits going to electric, we'd be able to see that's the kind of thing we want to see, is a whole lot more people going to electric. And so then that's what success would look like. If we were looking at this, we'd know, okay, we need to be improving the types of things we offer so that people will start adopting the solution. So back to what these things are, we want to be tracking, say, what is the staff reporting in their narratives that they're doing, and then there's usually a lag. So, and then what is the building department seeing if people are committing to, that's the machines, and then there's another lag after that. And then what is the report showing for tons or therms of gas sold or gallons of gasoline, converting that to tons of greenhouse gas. I'm not really seeing a need to smooth any of that out into 3-year rolling averages. I do believe there's interesting information in the yearly results. Just so smoothing it out into a 12-month rolling average, like the full year, is fine. And that's about all the time I have for this. Oh, wait, the last slide. This is what happens when you click that link I showed earlier to look at what is the light duty zero emission vehicle sales by zip code. And I didn't look close, but Commissioner Gaylord, was this one for Menlo Park's zip code?
It is off to the right. It says 94025 there.
All
Yeah.
right.
So this is our zip code. So 200, since I know this page well, I look at it
Mhm.
fairly often. In Q1 of Q2 of this year. So first half of this year, 277 newly registered vehicles were battery electric vehicle. That's what BEV stands for. And then 86 were plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So this will give us a sense. I mean, we'd like to see this increasing year over year. But, I think in the staff report, they said they were wanting to eliminate this one, but I think it's important to see not just the total fleet, which right now I think is something like 7% electric, it'll inch up over time, 9%, 11%. But I think it's important to see on a yearly basis how many new vehicles are electric, because that percentage is quite a bit higher. It's like 30% right now of
Right.
new
And
vehicles.
so over here on the left, for battery electric vehicles currently registered in our zip code, it's 3,008. And then this was the recent sales or recent registrations was 277. So this is easy information to get. We recommend tracking it in the easy way and continue to do that. So I'll turn off the sharing.
Yeah, and let me just provide a little bit more context. Thank you, Tom. So we would recommend metrics that are much in a report that's much simpler and easier to digest. So something that would be like, we recommended 9 metrics in the CAP, so 9 graphs that the public and council could easily look at, examples like what Tom showed, and see, are we on track? How are we moving year to year? That could just in a picture explain how we're doing and where we need to improve. So that would be our recommendation, kind of getting away from the longer documents, which we think are not as accessible to the public or to the council for making decisions. So that's maybe some context for that. And then we can get into more discussion later.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners Cabot and Gaylord. So are there any clarifying questions from the EQC at this point before we move on to public comment? Doesn't look like there are any clarifying questions. All right. So Ms. Almondral, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, we do. Mr. Scott Marshall, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and test your microphone.
I believe it's fine. Thank you.
Wonderful. Please begin your public comment now.
Yes, I want to say that both Commissioner Tom and Josie, sorry I didn't use your last names, have been doing a great job, and I think that they are on the right track. I do think that I've been following other cities in the area, Palo Alto, Mountain View, as they're doing their similar climate action plan. They're also including trees, like an urban forest master plan. This kind of creates a whole picture of what's going on, and it's a visual that people can see. You see that trees are being planted as part of carbon reduction. So not to burden the council with more things to do. We don't want to stop or limit what they want to do on the climate action plan. But I do think that doing something like an urban forest master plan as a sidebar or as an addition to a climate action plan would also help the public see that everybody is engaged in trying to save carbon. So it's just a recommendation. I realize that it's a big thing, trying not to, like the leaf blowers, you don't want to burden the council, but with too much to do. But it's just one of my recommendations that follow along with what other cities in the area are doing and including as part of this climate action plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scott Marshall. Once again, just as a reminder, if you'd like to provide public comment, please engage the raised hand feature. I will then have the ability to unmute your microphone and allow you to provide your public comment to the EQC. For those members who are calling in, please dial *9 to raise your virtual hand. Are there any other public comments for item C4, review and discuss Commissioner Gellard, Cabot, and Chair Payne's recommendation on climate action plan tracking metrics? There appear to be no other comments. I return the meeting to you, Chair Payne.
Thank you, Ms. Olmentraul, and thank you, Scott, for taking the time to comment again. So at this point, we can open this item up for EQC discussion. And since myself, Commissioner Cabot, and Commissioner Gaylord were all involved in this memo, I mean, we all have more to add, but I'd especially like to hear what Commissioners Elkins and Evans have to think on this, or have to say on this topic. Commissioner Evans.
It all makes excellent sense to me. I'm in support of what was just presented, and so don't have much to say other than that it all resonates with me. And I think, yes, absolutely crucial to make reporting metrics accessible and easy to read for the public for so many reasons. And I'm in full support of making sure that we find ways for the customer to, at application, indicate what kind of appliance they're getting. I agree, that will get us really robust data. And I was even going to say, I love, Tom, in your slides, how you put in the parentheses preferred alternative next to the one that gets us the emission reductions we're hoping for. I think that that's a wonderful thing to put in there. And I would even encourage, maybe there's a little asterisk next to it. I think you had some language way at the bottom of the slides, but a little asterisk and with some succinct bullets underneath onto why that's the preferred alternative, climate, health, whatever's relevant to that appliance, just so that the customer gets some quick, easy to read color on why that's the preferred alternative. That's it. Thank you for doing all of this work. It's excellent.
Commissioner Cabot.
Thank you. So I wanted to build upon a little bit of something that made me uncomfortable about the staff proposal to change the way, or to not follow the advice to report on the 9 metrics that the EQC had put forward. And, so I've mentioned already that I don't like renaming those 6 action items as strategies, but number 4 among them was the one about VMT reduction. And VMT reduction, I believe, I look at it as that was a goal, 25%. And I think the structure of that action item was to pursue a reduction of 25% VMT or other metric developed by the Complete Streets Commission. And so I don't know if staff was working with the Complete Streets Commission yet on what to do for developing that alternative metric. I had envisioned it to be just an alternative number in VMT reduction, because I understand the state has goals and or rules for cities about what they need to be doing to reduce VMT, and that there are VMT reduction goals. So, I'm not really wanting to adopt that kind of change to what we had put forward. And then the other way we can, there's a few other ways to see there's something different going on here. We had a roughly 12-page climate action plan, but that was a 62-page staff report about the metrics to track it. And so it was a very dense, long document. It took me quite a bit to get through it. And so that's why we're recommending these kind of simplifications and maybe using graphs to tell the stories as much as possible to get the whole size down, so it's easy for somebody to tell where you are and whether you're on target. There were so many words in that 62-page document that you couldn't tell if you're on target or not. And trust me, we're not yet accelerating to the speed we need to go. It just wasn't apparent in that document. So we need to get that out there and more clear. And then the other thing was action item 6 was only to work on a climate adaptation plan that addressed sea level because we were in a COVID climate budget crisis and didn't have the budget bandwidth to look at all the other problems. It's not a matter of oversight. It's about what was the first year's activity. And so we do have to keep going back to keep adding items to the climate action plan. It's not changing just the reporting of it. Oh, actually, so I disagree about something that was in the staff's report. Those 6 action items are not enough to meet our 2030 goals. They are a subset of what it will take. So, I don't want them couched as that's enough to do it, because it's not. And I want the tracking to show where we are so everyone understands if we need to staff up or simplify, which, either one of those things will help us move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo Tom's comments, and because of the way the agenda was structured, C3 was just an informational item. But we were told that as part of C4, because it's about metrics, this could be our chance to react to that and to express comments. So I want to also express that I'm not okay with the staff recommendations to basically throw out the CAP metrics that were recommended and approved by council, which were 9 metrics, and replace them with new ones, which I don't think are going to help us know where we are on the climate action plan. I think it sort of muddies the waters quite a bit. And specifically, to achieve a 90% reduction in our greenhouse gases, we really have to focus on 3 pieces of equipment in the city. That's it. 3 pieces of equipment: cars, water heaters, and furnaces. That's how we reduce our carbon emissions by 90%. Right now, the CAP proposes to track, overall cars, how many are emitting versus not, but it doesn't track furnaces or water heaters. That's what's being proposed. The CAP, as approved by the council, does have both of those metrics in there. And I am absolutely not in support of throwing out those metrics. We need to know how many furnaces are going in year over year versus new heat pump water heaters. We have to know whether our programs that we put in place are being effective. And this metrics proposal would give us 0 visibility into that. And so I'm absolutely opposed. And I'm also opposed to changing the goals. I am supportive of expanding CAP 6 goal to beyond just sea level rise. I think that's a good change. And there was a change to number 3, which was to begin tracking EV chargers, which we didn't actually propose in the initial CAP. We just decided to track EVs, not EV chargers, but I think that's a good improvement. But I'm not okay with the change to goal number to CAP action number 2. And I agree with Tom that these are just actions. They were supposed to be the first 6 of probably 50 total climate actions that need to be taken to achieve the goal. It was just the first years. And here we're a year in and we haven't really accomplished any of them. The goal was to actually have accomplished all 6 and to now take on our next 5 or 6 in the next year. So it's, disappointing that we are where we are, but we are where we are. And I think I would not want to relabel these strategies as if, these are the overarching 6 strategies that get us to the goal.
Yeah, just to build on some of what Josie was saying and to go through a couple of the individual actions a little bit more. First of all, yeah, I also agree that we need to continue to be clear that those were just 6 initial actions and not the end all of the cap, but just, again, the 6 initial actions that were passed, and it was passed as only 6 because of constraints at the time, and it will be necessary to add more as time goes on. But to get into those individually, like Josie said, I'm also supportive of, for cap action 6, broadening that to other forms of climate risk that Menlo Park is facing. So as Tom pointed out, it's not like we were unaware of other forms of risk at the time, but those are definitely things that should be accounted for, and work that goes towards those should be recognized as well. So not only sea level rise, but wildfires, resource constraints, things like that. So it's important to track all those. So I'm also supportive of modifying cap action 6 accordingly. And similarly with adding EV charging, I think that's also a useful thing to see. Cap action 5, I believe, was the municipal greening one. And I can't remember too well. Someone with a better memory might tell me what the original metrics were, but I think the metrics proposed in the informational presentation were fine in terms of if there really is individual building resolution, just checking individual meters. And the goal there is pretty absolute: eliminate fossil fuel emissions from municipal infrastructure and cars. So I think that's perfectly adequate. Yeah, really the big one is the tracking furnaces and water heaters as they go in, which that's why our memo was originally geared around adding in these modifications to the permitting process, so those data could be collected in an automated, quick, easy way. So it would take a minimum of staff resources to collect and report those data, and staff could instead spend time on more fulfilling, passing new policies, things like that. But I think, that's a big one, but I think it's just one example of where if the bottlenecks are in collecting data instead of in making the changes that we all want to see made, we need to communicate, is there a better way to do this, either through something like the permitting process, or do more resources need to be allocated in order to meet the goals that council has set? So, but yeah, that's it.
I want to thank you, Chair Payne. I want to just modify a couple things. For number 4, I think we should keep VMT. It's something that's, so it's vehicle miles traveled. It's actually very, very easy. Again, it's kind of a couple minutes on Google Insights Explorer to track that. And I think it's fine to add the, total number of bike miles or bike path miles added in the city. I think those are good additions, but I think we need to keep the VMT. On number 5, I actually am not, I'm not in total agreement about just tracking emissions. I think we do need to track equipment. So I think we need to know, if the city bought new gas cars in a year, I think the citizenry should have visibility into that. And the council should have visibility into that. Or if the city replaced, a gas water heater with another gas water heater, I think we need to know that. So I think we do need to track at the equipment level for Cap 5.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I was thinking emissions for those were a perfect proxy, since you see the emissions from an individual building, so if it's a gas heater or a gas furnace that's in that building. But I guess to your point, people won't see if emissions are high and stay high. People won't see if it's been replaced in the interim. For the VMT thing, I think Candace mentioned the Energy Insights Explorer. The issue with it is that it's an estimate, but I think it's fine to continue reporting it, and just with the caveat that it is an estimate and where those data come from, and say estimates provided by Google EIE for this purpose. And again, it's not like a more rigorous number needs to be obtained for that. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Cabot.
Yes, thank you. I was just remembering for the city, its emissions, 2 of the biggest emitters are the pool heaters at the 2 pool facilities. And so they dwarf a lot of the buildings in terms of how much natural gas is being burnt to heat those pools. So we'll have a big improvement in the new community center, which will be all electric, but we still need visibility into the, down at the equipment level, in that it's furnaces, water heaters, pool heaters, whatever else the city's doing. And, it'd be great when they're able to show their plans for how they've prepared to transition off of fossil fuels in those different end uses.
Commissioner Evans. Sorry, I believe you're still muted.
Sorry, was Elkins going to go next?
Oh,
no. No, I was also going to say, yes, I appreciate the fact that staff is expanding CAP 6 to include other goals as well. And groundwater rising and liquefaction risk and all of those. So thank you for doing that as well. And agree, I don't want to remove quantitative metrics that the other commissioners have already stated, and do absolutely think it's crucial to track the appliances going into the home. And I'm hoping that that's a relatively easy thing to do, and again, reduces staff workload later when we don't have to go through all of the individual records and seek the information that we need to know.
Commissioner Elkins, do you have any thoughts you want to add at this point?
I don't really. I am in favor of all of the, or in support of all of the changes or suggestions that you made to the forms. That I certainly agree that these metrics need to be more clear and easy for the public to get a sense of what's being done and what's not being realized. I don't have really anything of substance to add.
I had one other thing, Chair Payne. I had a thought as Ms. Almendraw was presenting about CAP number 6 and expanding that, and she mentioned, it's hard to kind of come up with a quantitative metric for that. One quantitative metric might be insurance rates. So for example, in the part of town that's close to the bay, I know insurance rates are going up because insurers are starting to understand that the flood risk is high over there. Hopefully, if measures were taken, a levee is built, we'd like to see those insurance rates go back down. Similarly with wildfire, if there's I think if a city has plans, I think there are things that cities can do and individual homeowners can do to lower the insurance rates, but that would give us an idea of that would be a reflection of the risk in the community, because insurance companies are so good at assessing risk. So that would be a quantitative way to assess those things.
All right. Do any other commissioners have thoughts to add at this point, or are we maybe circling a motion around a recommendation we can make for the EQC recommendations on tracking metrics?
And do we want to include something in there about our opinion about changing it from action items to strategy, which I agree that seems to be a mistake to change it to that word.
So I have a question for Chair Payne and maybe for Ms. Lucky. Since the memo was more focused on just the kind of changes to the data collection for equipment from the community, but our conversation was more about kind of recommendations on all CAP metrics. Can we pass a motion that includes these kind of broader recommendations? How does that work?
I'll defer to Ms. Lucky on that one.
Yeah, so I think there's maybe a couple pathways, maybe they're all intermingled. So on one hand, you have the attached memo to the agenda. And then I'm also hearing that there's potential recommendations to the proposed staff modifications and clarifications. And you could address it by the memo or going with the presentation. We could pull up the presentation from staff and go through the recommendations and what you would like to add or modify on those so that we have clarity on what the EQC is seeking. Or it could be a combination of both. So forward the memo plus these additions or modifications or removal of certain metrics.
It sounds intense, but I guess because I think it's so important, I would recommend going through the staff recommendations. I don't know if other people are up for it, but
That's fine.
All right. Yeah, we can go through the 6 recommendations and yeah, give our input.
Oops, I think I went too far. There we go. So maybe if I could suggest Chair Payne, maybe taking the action as we get past each of the strategies.
Taking
Or
the action as
taking
we get...
taking the EQC taking action after each of the strategies are
I see.
discussed.
So having a motion after each strategy with a recommendation.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, so for strategy number 1, the electrifications of existing buildings, it sounds like a lot of what we had discussed before was we still feel that installation of appliances, of gas furnaces and gas water heaters should be tracked. And we have the memo that we've written is largely refers to one potential means to streamline the tracking of that to reduce the burden on staff. But we would recommend that those data be tracked with modifications to the permitting system made if possible, but that resources be allocated so that staff is able to track these important pieces of data.
yeah, maybe I'll just jump in. Rebecca, could we just say here, revert to climate action plan metrics 1 and 2 for strategy number 1? So that would be number of gas water heaters citywide that are replaced with electric versions. And the second one is number of gas furnaces citywide that are replaced with electric versions. Would that simplify it?
Let me see. Yes, let me try to capture this. And I'll put it in a different font so that way you can see. So it didn't go, but in include cap metric 1 and 2.
Metric 1 and 2, yeah. Actually, it's 1, 2, and 3. Sorry. Also, the number of utility natural gas accounts terminated.
Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion then on making that recommendation for cap action number 1?
Do we
Yeah,
also
and-
want to?
Go ahead, Angela. Go ahead.
Do we also want to include that piece in Tom's slide that I left, which was that any system that tracks those appliances coming in also educates the consumer at the same time about what the preferred alternative is and why?
We will we'll take a vote at the end of this on whether or not to recommend that whole memo be included as an attachment. One other thing though that I did think about right now, did we want to also at this point recommend that the wording action be used instead of strategy here, just to emphasize that these were initial actions?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think for number 2,
Oh, we're gonna do
sorry. Oh, we're gonna vote.
a
Yep,
motion after
sorry.
each one.
Sorry.
So yeah, again, does anybody want to make a motion here?
Yeah, I'd like to move that the staff report be changed to reflect what's on the screen now.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. I don't know if Miss Lucky or Miss Almentroll will be leading the roll call here, but could we go ahead and do a roll call?
Of course, roll call vote. Commissioner Elkins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Gellard,
Aye.
Commissioner Cabot,
Aye.
Chair Payne.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, then moving on to strategy number 2, increase electric vehicles and decrease gasoline sales. So again, people can jump in with other recommendations, but the one I remember us talking about was to include not just the change in the total fleet, but the change per year of new electric vehicle sales. And again, those, I can't remember which website you showed, but those data could be reported as is from that particular website.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one would, I think, revert to cap metric 4 and 5. For this one, I would also not reframe the goal. I didn't understand the reframing that was being proposed. It seemed like it was maybe getting rid of this 10% reduction per year in gas. Was that the intent of the reframing? I didn't track it, but maybe could Miss Almendrall or Miss Lucky explain that again?
I would defer to Ms. Almendrall.
So sorry that it was unclear, but the reframing would be to drive a change in total or track the changes in the total fleet versus a focus on new vehicle sales. That was the reframing suggested.
Okay, so the strategy
Is to
currently is
set goals to drive to increase new electric vehicle sales to 100% by 2025. And the suggestion was to include all vehicle community fleet versus focusing on new vehicle sales.
So would it be that the community fleet be entirely electric by a certain date instead of new vehicle sales being electric by a certain date?
That would be determined by council, but the suggestion was to make it a little bit more broad and include the entire community fleet, so that the reduction of the transportation gasoline and diesel related emissions could be captured the most impactfully.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect of the goal is that it says to set a goal, but the goal is already within the goal as well. So just clarifying that the goal has already been set.
Sorry, what do you mean by that? That which
So
goal has already been set?
It start for goal for climate action plan goal number 2. It starts off with set a goal. I think Commissioner London brought this up.
Okay.
And she was trying to point out that it is already included within the goal. So it's just a matter of reframing that part of it, but also to Candace's point as well, it's in order to reach our carbon neutral goal, we're trying to measure whether or not the community is making a fast enough transition in electric vehicles overall to reach that goal.
So it would be changing the language from setting a goal to the action is to convert.
Achieve the goal or something.
Yeah.
So I could understand changing the word set to achieve. I think we were thinking that the city wasn't quite ready to do that then. So we wanted it to, we wanted to give room for the staff or whoever to like think about the goal or modify it or whatever. But I would like to keep I would personally like to keep the focus on new pursuing electric EVs, 100% of new vehicles. That's our opportunity to really make a change. And so I think we should keep it focused on new. And recognizing that some people, it's going to take them a while to, swap out. Some people are going to hang on to older vehicles for a long time. But I think as long as if we can get to 100% of new vehicles, then eventually we're going to turn over the whole fleet. So I'd like to keep the focus on new.
Ms. Lucky, I was wondering if you could put the screen into slideshow mode to make the font look bigger.
Let's see, I think I could. Is that a little bit better? Let me.
Yep, that
move
is
this
better.
down.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I could go either way on the new versus the total fleet goal, just in terms of, I think new vehicle sold is still useful to track regardless. So it's good to include those metrics. If anything, the total fleet is a more ambitious goal, assuming the year doesn't get pushed back significantly from the target for when all new vehicle sales are electric. So yeah, I mean, I guess I think 100% of new vehicle sales being electric is a more realistic goal, but I'm not opposed to a more ambitious goal for turning the whole community fleet over equally fast.
You know what we saw was one visit to the little public website and you get both numbers. You get the recent year plus the total registrations by different vehicle type. So, it's not harder to collect data. And so it, it just gives a view. I don't see a reason not to have both.
Well, yeah, both could be reported as metrics. It's just a question of which would it be the actual action. Is it replacing the whole fleet or replacing all sales?
Yeah, because Commissioner Cabot, what the staff is proposing actually changing the action here. And so we're reacting to, do we want to change the action on this one? And my instinct is to keep the action the same, except maybe to change the word set to achieve.
That sounds good.
I'm fine with changing set to achieve. Maybe you could include a caveat that if council does want to change this to entire fleet versus new sales, that goal not be later than 2030, which is our carbon neutrality goal already. So when it would by necessity need to be.
Okay,
so I'm sorry, is that achieved by 2030? Is that
well, we can say change to achieve, and if goal is changed from new vehicle sales to total community fleet, that the date not be changed to later than 2030.
okay?
Other commissioners, do you agree? That seems reasonable wording.
Yeah, as long as it's an if.
Yeah.
Right, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for me to picture that being achieved because those are 9-year-old cars that are no longer running or no longer registered here. So it's hard to picture.
I didn't quite track that.
2030 is coming up on us real quick. And so the fleet won't have turned over. So to be at 100% electric.
Yeah. So whoever is it Miss Lucky who's typing?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that this is a little bit different from I think what James was saying. And if council decides to set a goal not around new vehicles, but around total vehicles. To set a goal for total vehicles instead of new, then 100% should be achieved by no later than 2030. Did I capture it, James?
That sounds, yeah, right to me.
Okay. In the interest of time, I move to accept the changes here, or the changes to the staff report.
All right, do
as
we have
they
a
are on the
second?
screen.
I'll second that.
All right, Ms. Almondrell, would you like to do the roll call?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Payne. Commissioner Elkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
Vice Chair Evans, I apologize.
Oh, it's fine. Yes.
Commissioner Gellard,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabot,
Yes.
Chair Payne,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, let me move on to strategy number 3.
Okay, let's see here. There we go.
So this is expanding access to electric vehicle charging. I think we all sounded supportive of tracking the number of chargers installed as well. Any other discussion around this item, or?
So one question I have, so I think the goal is fine as is. I think it's good to add this tracking metric. Ms. Lucky, council asked that there be this pilot program for the multifamily EV program. Has that been begun? Like, isn't that something that council would want to hear about? Like, how many multifamily building owners have been contacted, or what the progress is on it?
Yeah, I think we've reported out a few times that we're going to begin that work in the fall. So we were wrapping up the progress report really, and then moving forward on that. So it's part of this scope of work for 2021.
Okay.
And I believe in the progress report, and Candace can correct me if I'm wrong, but we are tracking the PCE applications that have been submitted for EV infrastructure at multifamily properties in Menlo Park, and there are a handful of them that have already taken advantage or are attempting to take advantage of the incentive.
That's correct. It would be captured in that kind of narrative section that we were suggesting, and it appears in the narrative section of the reporting of that strategy's progress.
Okay. Can I make a recommendation? And I want to hear what the other commissioners think about this. On the things, I'm imagining it would great to have, instead of 68 pages, 2 pages, one which is a bunch of graphs, 9 graphs showing progress on each of the 9 metrics. And then maybe 1 page, which would be a table format, which would just be all the programs. And it would be like, related to CAP Action 1, here are the 3 programs. CAP Action 2, here are the 2 programs. CAP Action 3, here are the 3 programs, whatever it is, but just like all in one table. Would it be possible to report all the programs in that way, in just a very tight format like that?
I mean, that's what we're always attempting to do at the end of the day. I think because the CAP itself and the programs and the aspects of life that it touches, there's some aspects that do lend itself to having that at a glance snapshot of how we're doing, but other areas are not as easy to show that we are making progress. So I think there's probably a 2-pronged approach here in kind of what's been requested. So we've heard from some council members and some others that they want more details to see, you know, that we've reserved 5 Ford trucks next year for our fleet, and just trying to navigate the report outs with kind of that high level data. So like tracking therms of natural gas used in buildings kind of helps show that, or the amount of EV chargers. So I think we can take those high level data points, and if people want to dig deeper, they can look into the narratives. The other aspect is also just looking at a dashboard type of system. There's quite some cities, larger cities tend to use this, a sustainable dashboard, and we're looking into that as well, so that the public and council members in the EQC can see at a glance where we are on some of our CAP action items. So that's definitely something that can be included in the future, but I would caution leaving out the narratives, because they do tell an important story, particularly sometimes with challenges and constraints within the city.
Yeah.
Okay, how about just like an executive summary? So, you know, I guess I'm requesting, could all of the programs, which I think they would all fit on one table, just in a, you know, one line describing, right? Like we have, you know, give me a program. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but let's say it's the municipal fleet conversion, right? So that ties to CAP action number 5, and that would be one item in the table, and you would just list, because you under each one you say report on any programs or policies, but it would be really helpful if you could kind of put those all into one table, so someone could see, oh, we have 5 programs on CAP 6 and we only have 1 on CAP whatever.
I think that's a suggestion that we can look at going forward.
Okay.
I had a question, actually. So I do like an aspect of the narrative reporting on what activities staff is engaged in. But when I read this report, I couldn't tell how staff was marketing to the multifamily building owners. You know, I was reading it and it looked like it was passive about monitoring what is happening between those building owners and PCE, et cetera. But it didn't look, you know, I couldn't tell that there was activity where there was, city was reaching out to building owners to encourage them about the program.
So Candace can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we do mention that we are going to kick off the city specific outreach to multifamily. I think there's a lot of other nuances that we need to walk through, because PCE staff is also reaching out to multifamily. So we're just trying to make sure that we're filling in the gaps that need to be filled, so that we can, again, dedicate resources to where we need to do that.
Okay.
But I'm happy to talk through that a little bit more and understand like
no,
where that's going.
Yeah, no, it's just it's the type of thing I would look for in a narrative, to see, you know, what is happening, what are they trying, how is it going, you know, what else do they want to try?
Yeah.
So in the interest of time, since we are past 9, should we, it sounds like no modification, we're recommending to strategy number 3. So should we move on to strategy number 4? All right, so for strategy number 4, it's a target to reduce vehicle miles traveled. And it sounds like the recommendation we were discussing was to include the metric of VMT as reported from Google's EIE, just those data as is, with the caveat that they are an estimate.
And I'm still unclear as to whether the Complete Streets Commission has weighed in yet on this.
I believe the Complete Streets Commission, they have some other priorities that they're looking at. I need to dig up the information, but I could probably email you after this sometime this week. But they do understand where that fits in, and I believe they have a plan.
I'd like to keep that part of it. Like this one says, this one is a reframing one.
Okay.
So reframe the goal with the intent to expand and enhance multimodal opportunities and infrastructure to reduce community dependence, reliance on. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of how we're going to do it. But I think what we're going to do is, I mean, what we want to see measured is I think what we want to do is reduce the vehicle miles traveled. So I'd like to stick with that, like 25% reduction or a number to be determined by each. I would personally like to keep that. But I do like, these things that you want to track, like the mode share. I think that's an improvement to add those things. I don't want to take away the VMT, the Google Insights.
Yeah, could the goal be something like enhance multimodal opportunities in order to achieve 25% VMT reduction?
Mm-hmm.
And enhancing multimodal opportunities is a strategy. So finally, the word strategy comes up. It's about the set of actions one would do in order to achieve the goal or the action item.
Sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was going to say then, is everyone comfortable with the recommendation to, the goal can be reframed to include explicit mention of multimodal opportunities, but to retain the 25% VMT reduction target or goal as determined by the Complete Streets Committee?
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess if that's right, the rest of you, it just does seem to me like the goal is still to reduce vehicle miles traveled, and you would, however we do it, it doesn't need to be part of the goal, because the goal isn't necessarily to enhance the multimodal opportunities. If we can get VMT reduction without that, I mean,
Yeah,
whatever.
through
If
housing policy or something like that. Yeah.
right, I mean, if staff wants to reframe it that way, but just to add that extra detail, I don't think it detracts from, except for the fact that it makes it a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, like Josie said, I agree they're useful metrics to travel, like how many miles of bike lanes and what percent of the city is sidewalk
Right, but
accessible,
it's not
things
part
like
of the
that.
goal. It's just
Yeah.
part of the measurement and the means.
Yeah. So Rebecca, can we add a line here that says revert to cap goal number?
Yeah, I
Where
think
is
that, so by striking the language,
Mhm.
and maybe it's just do not change or do not
Yes.
change.
Sorry, I'm distinguishing between the goal and the metrics. So on the metrics, can we revert back to cap metric number 8?
Yes.
So
I see what
just
you're
write
saying.
that in there.
8% was the VMT reduction.
Yeah, it's vehicle miles traveled, including trips inbound, outbound, and within the city. Which Google Insights Explorer it's very easy to, track those 3 things. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So is that
Do
one
we have a
done?
motion?
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second it. Oh.
All right. Ms. Almondrell, could we do roll call?
Absolutely. Just the seconds were at the same time.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Wondering who we're gonna take as the second in
Yeah,
that.
who wants credit?
Tom, can I-
Evans.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Commissioner Elkins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Gillard,
Aye.
Commissioner Cabot,
Aye.
Chair Payne,
Aye.
motion passes.
All right, then on to number 5.
So on this one, I want to count equipment. So the original metric is number 7, cap metric number 7. It says percentage of municipal assets converted from gas or diesel to electric. I think we were trying to keep it concise and just have one number, but that's kind of a weird maybe a weird way to track it. So I wonder if we want to do like percentage of our 3 big pieces of equipment. Well,
So what if it was cap metrics 1 and 2, but specifically for municipal buildings?
yeah, I think that's what we want to do. We want to compare, like, were there any new gas devices versus electric devices installed in buildings, and then new vehicles, gas vehicles versus electric vehicles. Well, or do we want to do total? Well, in this, the original metric was converted. We were emphasizing what's being converted. So we're assuming right now the city is all gas, and like what, how much of it is getting converted, because we want to roughly do about 10% a year to get to, 100% by 2030, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the percentage is an okay one. I don't know.
Mhm.
People
Well,
have thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in this one, since it's under direct control of the city, both the usage of the equipment and the selection of the equipment. It's one of those where I think the greenhouse gas inventory for this, it can be a good metric of what is the total going on, and breaking that metric out into the natural gas side of it and the gasoline. No need to commingle them and obscure one with the other, but so separate metrics on the liquid fuel and the gaseous fuel, and then also report on the conversions, the conversions made and the new commitments to fossil equipment made, so that that the new commitments to fossil is the problem, and we need to confront the problem if it happens, and the conversions is the solution, and we need to celebrate the conversions when they happen.
So is that tracking cap metrics 1 and 2 for municipal assets?
I think it is, and then plus reporting on the therms and gallons.
Yeah, so we could add as a bullet point, then
Mhm.
we recommend tracking cap metrics 1 and 2.
Mhm.
Or yeah.
And I've forgotten, are those just therms and gallons units?
1 and 2
No.
are individual
Okay, they are the equipment
appliances and
commitments.
vehicles, right?
Yep. Okay, good.
Although pool heaters, we don't have pool heaters, and we know that that's a major one. So
Yeah, right.
Oh.
So tracking that one too.
yeah.
It definitely makes sense for us to celebrate the conversions that the city does, and let the community know the city is walking the talk.
All right. I'm sorry, Josie.
Oh, I was just gonna ask Rebecca if she's tracking what we're talking about. Is it making sense?
I'm hearing what
Okay.
you're saying. Just trying to make sure we have the consensus. So on what you're wanting to add. So I heard
Yes.
tracking equipment.
So it'd be, yeah, tracking conversions of fossil equipment to electric. And also tracking any new fossil equipment, right? So the conversion from the fossil to the gas would be a celebration, and new fossil equipment would be it'd be a lost opportunity, but one that council and the public should be aware of.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I so move.
And a second?
Second.
All right. Ms. Almondral, will you do roll call?
Thank you, Chair Payne. Commissioner Elkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Gellard,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabot,
Yes.
Chair Payne.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Then strategy number 6. Again, jump in if I'm wrong, but it sounded like we were all supportive of expanding this goal and addressing climate resiliency beyond sea level rise, and thus allowing work in other areas to be captured and reported on here as well. So yeah, I think no modification necessary here unless anyone wants to jump in.
The only thing, what did people, I'm not trying to create more work, and so I'm hesitant to suggest this again, but what did people think of the idea of using insurance rates as a metric for this? I mean, it is something that like affects residents. Tom?
I don't know of a good way to gather the information on insurance rates. So that's my dilemma with it.
Mhm.
I don't know enough about how one gets that, how public it is. Whether that's proprietary information by the insurers.
Yeah, one worry I have about it is from friends who live in wildfire-prone areas. The data seem less perfect than you would hope from an actuary. It isn't a steady climb to reflect the increasing scientific consensus of risk of those areas, but instead they're subject to a lot of gamblers' biases. So when there's been a fire nearby, rates go up because insurers think it's a hot area, there's going to be a fire there again. And when it's cooled off for a few years, the rates go down. So yeah, my friends have said that they have community meetings basically whenever there's a fire nearby where they all pick out a new insurer. So I feel like it would give a very choppy graph.
Okay.
I mean, actually, I actually really like Commissioner Gaylord's idea. Sorry, Commissioner Payne.
No, that's all right.
I know in Lake Tahoe, there's entire insurance companies that have exited the market entirely and made that decision and are not going back and forth on it. And though I'm not aware of the actual numbers, I know that the flood insurance increases I have heard anecdotally and from policymakers who represent that area that's a big issue right now in District 1. And so I think it's worth including, and at the very least, asking representatives of District 1 if they have data on it. I believe that they've been working on it themselves, so there might be some easy to obtain data that we could add very easily. And I love the idea of quantify, where possible, trying to quantify something that is big and abstract. And so I vote to include it.
Yeah, I was just wondering too, thank you both for your thoughts. Kind of something Commissioner Evans said made me think, this one actually, it may be something that a survey, if the city could survey, like a representative, well, not survey everyone, but survey some percentage of the population in each district. And it might actually be an interesting reflection back to the community about the cost of climate change. Because right now we say insurance rates are going up, but we just know that anecdotally. And it might be an interesting way to say, hey, there is a cost of climate change, and the more we can do to mitigate it or, do things to protect our community with levies or whatever, that helps us. So.
Commissioner Elkins, I'm sorry, I didn't see that your hand was up.
I like the idea of this. If it was if we knew that it was accurate, I think we're just guessing that it's really going to reflect the reality of the situation on the ground, and we just don't know what factors are being considered by the insurers when they set their rates. Are they even the passing on costs based on flooding in Louisiana? And I just don't think we have enough information to add something like that.
I think it's data, and council can decide to do what it wants to do with that data. I have heard that, and we're talking specifically about flood insurance. Is that correct? As opposed to general homeowner and renter insurance? Is that right? Was that what you were recommending?
Well, originally the idea was like, you know, probably wildfire and flood insurance. Yeah.
Okay, because I have heard that flood insurance has increased substantially there, and I have heard that is a big issue in District 1, and that I've heard that policymakers there, community leaders there are working on that issue. What they're doing specifically, I don't know. But I know that this issue has been flagged recently. And so I think including those rates, or at least taking a look at them, or talking about their trajectory, which has been an increase, I think could be helpful. And I think it also gives, it also reflects back to like the financial implication of the people on the ground there and what they're having to work through. It doesn't just show that sea levels are going up, but it's showing that the people themselves are having trouble paying to continue to live there.
And I agree with those things, but we just don't know if that's metric actually reflects the reality. As I said, if it did, that would be great, and it would be wonderful to point out that these things are causing actual money out of your pocket. But we know that that's what that means. I'm going to vote against it. So.
When I look at number 6, the way it is right now, the 4 bullets are all activities, and so it's the staff and council making progress on those things. And then the insurance one is interesting. If the data were easy to collect, I'd love to see it, but I don't want to send staff on I don't want to give them an assignment that doesn't produce much value. It's what I worry about. But maybe the city has its own assets that it buys insurance for. Maybe that's easy to report.
Yeah, one thing you pointed out earlier, Tom, is it's not trivial to collect those data necessarily. There are multiple insurers. Do we do an average of different insurer rates, things like that?
It's going to be noisy data, I think. If you go over time and you're surveying people, you'll get different responders.
Yeah. I mean, I think they would be interesting data to have. I would personally be uncomfortable including it as a metric right now, largely, I guess, for the concern of, we've been talking about the limited staff time to do these things right now. I would rather that time be spent getting new policies out.
I'm fine to leave it, but I'm definitely gonna put it in the back of my my hat and think about it and come back maybe.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful if in the coming weeks, if I reached out to relevant policymakers there and asked if any of that data has already been collected or is being collected and what form it might take? And I could report back at a next meeting, assuming I got a good response, or that I got a response.
Yeah, I'd be very interested.
Yep, me too.
I'm happy to, at least ask the question and see where it is.
Okay.
And I wonder if the county's looking at this. The county might be able to collect the data, may be able to go to the insurers or to reinsurance companies who back up the insurers and find if there is a disclosable rate-making formula for the county or the city.
All right, that sounds good then. And then for strategy number 6, it sounds like no modifications necessary. So should we move on to taking an action on the memo itself? Is there a motion out there basically to recommend the memo as is be sent to council?
I so move. Can I do that on my own memo? Actually, Tom wrote it, but.
Oh yeah, I was confused about which memo.
This is the memo.
The one you wrote on the metrics.
The metrics with the permitting
changes.
process.
I'm fine with that one.
Okay.
Okay, I second the motion.
All right, Ms. Almondral, can you lead us in a roll call?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Payne. Commissioner Elkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Gellard,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabot,
Yes.
Chair Payne,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. And with that, we conclude action item C4 and move on to our final action item for the night, item C5, to review and discuss Commissioner Gaillard, Cabot, and Chair Payne's recommendations on post-crisis implementation of the 2020 Climate Action Plan. Is anyone giving a presentation on this, or is this just a discussion of the memo as it was attached?
I'm going to introduce it, but I'm not going to do a presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
Then, yeah, take it away.
All righty. So you guys have seen this memo before. We were asked to sort of take another look at it, and we took the opportunity to put it in context. So this is, as a reminder, this is a May memo that the subcommittee put together, the CAP subcommittee put together, which was, now that we're a year into the CAP, what we said in the original CAP was we'll come back in a year, these are the 6 recommended actions for this year, and we'll come back in a year with another set of recommendations. What we did, it was instead come back not with another set of very specific actions. We came back and said, okay, we recommended 6 actions just for COVID times. This was like our get started here list of 6. But this memo kind of takes a step back and said, okay, we're coming out of COVID now. The budget situation is better for the city. If you're really going to tackle these climate goals, here's how you need to think about these things holistically. And so we put some better language in, I think, about helping frame what we're recommending, which is we recommended 6 things, but those were just 6 things to get started with. And now we're recommending some, we're calling them goals. So the first one is reduce emissions from buildings by 90% by 2030. It's a little bit different from the explore policies and program options to convert 95% of existing buildings to all electric by 2030. But we were trying to line it up better with the overall goal of 90% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions overall for the city by 2030. So that one's a little bit of a change. And then goal number 2 is reduce emissions from vehicles by 90% by 2030. Goal number 3, reduce emissions from waste by 90% by 2030. And then goal 5, develop a climate adaptation plans to protect portions of Menlo Park that are threatened by climate change. So this accomplishes what expanding action 6 did in the staff memo, but just does it around, we had some more complete language there, including things like drought, looking at drought, we're going to have water shortages, extreme heat. So kind of looking at all of the different, and to Scott Marshall's point, who made a comment, develop a plan for adapting the urban forest to climate change. So it's sort of a broader look. It's a thing that we would have liked to have done, I think, last year, except for COVID. It was just like, what can we do with very limited staff? Now we're kind of taking a step back and saying, if you want to achieve the whole goal, you have to have these big buckets of actions. And the other piece of what we did was, if you're going to do all of those things, like what is the staffing needed? And so we looked at like, what are the skills required? And what city departments are affected potentially. There's a lot of work, for example, in public works to be done, or public engagement. That's an area that's really been lacking. And we've been getting a lot of public comment, actually, I think, to all of our inboxes about that. So it's sort of taking a step back and saying you need to really staff up the CAP if we're going to accomplish this goal. Here's an idea of the different skill sets you need and the different departments that are affected.
Yeah. just to add a little bit of further clarification. So the full EQC already voted to approve this memo, and so it will be attached as a memo to the CAP progress report that's given in October. The action we are voting on tonight is to approve the modifications that have been made to that memo. Now, the caveat here is that I believe we voted to approve this before Angela was a member of the commission. So this might be the first time she is seeing it. So this is a memo that, like I said, the bulk of it was approved. The modifications that were made are the ones Josie just described a little bit. They're mostly the things highlighted in red and a little bit of addition to the sort of FAQ that went on there to reflect some other comments that have come up from the public. So so with that said, the first item here is any clarifying questions from the EQC before taking public comment. So is that all clear what this discussion and action will be tonight?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that really the only changes to this are these items is where it's in red. Have anything else?
Sorry, no, there were more changes than what's in red. I apologize. Yeah, I should have been clearer about that and I wasn't. I would say the bulk of the changes are to the first page.
Mhm.
Sort of that, again, context, like some people were confused, like you gave us 6 actions last time and now you're giving us 6 new things, like what is this? And sort of it's trying to put it in context. And then the FAQ, which is what I'm calling starting under addressing some recent misunderstandings about the CAP. Some of that language has been updated to reflect just minor sort of tweaks here and there.
Okay, but so where is that, this area that you're calling the FAQ?
Oh, sorry, it's not called an FAQ. It's on page C-5.4. So
and
there are
extending
questions.
into the following pages as well, but starting at
Yeah.
addressing some recent misunderstandings about the CAP.
Says, is it too expensive?
Mhm.
Can
That
we
has been
just use?
Yeah, that has been
no.
modified to reflect additional misunderstandings that have come up since May.
Okay. And did you just explain what those additions were? Maybe I wasn't following you well enough. So the additions, what are the new misunderstandings that you've added to this?
So, sorry, I did it a few days ago and I don't remember every single change. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up.
While she's doing that, she'll get the more complete information. But one of the big changes was really to reflect the new information that came out of the consultant report on the cost effectiveness study. So included a little bit of information on that, as well as, since a number of comments were received on the cost of panel upgrades, something was added to address that as well, I believe. Right, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
I assume Josie's still
She's
trying
still
to pull it
looking.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. There were some other changes. We added some language around the new IPCC report that has come out since. So
Okay.
that
At number 3, 5.5 at the bottom.
Yeah, and I think there was also some in 5.3 in August. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change issued a stunning report that is directly relevant to Menlo Park's CAP. It is the sixth assessment on climate change and is described in the following way. So
Mhm.
that was new.
Right.
And
Everything sounds good.
I think the section 2 on can't we just use carrots,
Mhm.
incentives instead of sticks on 5.5?
Oh, yes. Yep.
That's new.
That it reflects recent surveying of the 3 major heat pump water heater incentive programs around us at PCE, Palo Alto, and Silicon Valley Clean Energy. And we found essentially they were able to get conversions to heat pump water heaters with their big programs and their marketing of incentives that amounted to about 1% as many water heaters as are burning out. And so it's, they're not getting 100%, they're getting about 1%. So it's to try to help put incentives into perspective in terms of how many years might it take to get there with incentives.
And without a ban. Or an
All right.
order. Yep, okay.
At this point, so we actually haven't gotten into the discussion of this item yet. So let's take a quick moment to step back and
Okay.
see if there's any public comment, and then we can get to discussion on whether or not we want to make a motion to approve this. So Ms. Almentroll, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not have any public comment at the moment. Just as a reminder to those in the public who are in attendance, if you wish to provide a public comment, please engage the raised hand feature. I will then have the ability to unmute you and you can give your comment to the Environmental Quality Commission. For those members who have called in, please dial *9 to engage your virtual hand. Last call for public comment on item C5. Review and discuss Commissioner Gellert, Cabot, and Chair Payne's recommendation on post-crisis implementation of the 2020 Climate Action Plan. There are no public comments. I return the meeting to you, Chair Payne.
Thank you. All right, so now we can open back up for sort of a full discussion of this, and if there are any other modifications and issues with those, or if we want to make a motion to approve the modifications to the memo, which again will be attached to the CAP progress report for the October 12th meeting to council. Yes, Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. On goal number 5, where it says proposed 2021 priorities, can we also add a bullet on groundwater table rising and liquefaction risk?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Yeah, I also support that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Evans, can you just repeat that? I want to write it down just as you said it.
Sure. Under goal number 5, which is on page seed 5.10.
Yep.
Add a bullet that says develop a plan for protecting community from groundwater table rise and liquefaction risk.
All right.
I wonder if, for me as an engineer, it's hard to imagine a plan that will protect against those. It's easier to explore a plan, but it may be that is the measure that drives occupants out of that low-lying territory.
Well, I mean, one thing we've discussed is, actually electrification itself and reduced reliance on the natural gas infrastructure in districts that are prone to flooding, groundwater table rising, and liquefaction is important because of impacts on that infrastructure, not just mechanically, but corrosion, etc.
Right. So it's a reduced risk to the infrastructure.
Correct.
Is what, yeah, electrification represents a reduction in risky infrastructure in place. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Any additional thoughts or comments?
So actually, I just, from that, based on that discussion, I'm going to modify it with your approval, Commissioner Evans. Develop a plan for protecting the community from risks associated with ground table water rise and liquefaction.
That sounds good. Thank you.
All right. I'm not seeing any other further comments. So do we have a motion to approve the modifications both presented and discussed to this memo?
I move.
All right. Do we have a second?
I can second that.
All right. Ms. Almondral, can you lead us in a roll call?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Payne. Commissioner Elkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Gellard,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabot,
Yes.
Chair Payne.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, that concludes then our last action item for the evening. So now on to item D, advisory body member reports. So any reports from any commissioners or staff at this time?
So Chair Payne, if I could just wrap up the last 3 agenda items and how we're moving forward on those. So what's going to be going forward to City Council on October 12th is an informational report providing the City Council with a progress report and the staff proposed modifications and clarifications. And then the report will also include the recommendations from the EQC as an attachment, and also this last item about beyond 2021 as well. And in the staff report, it'll highlight kind of what those recommendations are as well, so that they're not having to dig through the report either. And then just as far as updates, I did send the commission an email of some of the activities we're working on. There's a lot going on with CAP number 1. Also getting very close to preparing an award of contract for the renewable microgrid at the community center. We've brought on a consultant, Chris Starkey, to help us with CAP number 5, which is eliminating fossil fuels from municipal operations. So he's busy working on getting assessments done and helping to figure out when we're going to be able to fully transition the fleet of vehicles that we have. And then, as I mentioned in the couple of the agenda items ago, we've got Candace Almondral, who's working on CAP number 3, and going to be launching and kicking off the multifamily incentive program kind of outline and reaching out to multifamily property owners and working with PCE to, again, try to find where we can fill in the gaps. Oh, and then, I'm sorry. And then for those that didn't attend the August 31st meeting, so the council had their study session on the recommendations from the EQC regarding CAP number 1 to electrify existing buildings. So a majority of the recommendations did get approved as far as reducing barriers to electrification, helping the low to moderate income community electrify in a way. The only item where there wasn't consensus was around drafting an ordinance that would ban the installation of gas appliances in existing homes. And so it didn't mean that it wasn't going to be looked at in the future, just not at this time. And so they did approve of working on a long-term plan, which will likely include possible mandates. That's all.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any other reports from commissioners at this time?
Just quick. So Rebecca, I don't think you mentioned that that Assistant City Manager Nick Figueros and Ms. Lucky have followed up with the CAP 1 subcommittee for a couple of meetings to talk about reducing barriers. So we're kind of collaborating on that. And I think staff's going to come back with some, or I don't know, maybe at our next meeting with ideas. And also, oh, what was it? Sorry, come back to me. I forgot.
Anyone else?
Sorry, I do want to mention one. So as Candace was mentioning, we use ICLEI to measure our greenhouse gas emissions. And ICLEI does also provide other tools and software for governments across the world on helping to fight climate change at a local level. And they just launched a new tool to look at high impact analysis actions. So they were specifically looking at scope 1 and 2 emissions. So that's emissions from buildings and emissions from transportation. And you could basically put in what your goal is, and they could kind of outline the actions and what you would need to do in order to achieve the goal you're seeking. And to your point, Commissioner Gillard, it's basically at a glance of here's what you would need to do to check these boxes to achieve your goal. So we got a high level, staff got a high level overview of that support tool. And so we'll be following up with them because they didn't include our carbon neutrality goal, but they gave us an initial assessment. And it was pretty interesting on that front.
All right, any other reports? Josie, did you remember your other point?
It's late, sorry. In and out.
All right, with that, we can adjourn the meeting at exactly 10 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Good night.